So what we're gonna do today. I want to go back to the Cloud9 against FlyQuest series from LCS 2020 Summer, and the reason I want to rewatch this series is because I don't remember all of it that well. I remember a little bit of it. Some of the things I remember is a lot FlyQuest really attacking Cloud9 with the level ones, and Ignar doing a great job, especially in those level ones. So I want to remember. Or I want to kind of review how that played out and whether it was as big a deal as I thought at the time. And B, because, I think a lot of the reason that Cloud9, or the perception of the reason that Cloud9 kind of failed and didn't reach Worlds and ended up finishing fourth, a lot of that was kind of assigned to Blaber and saying that, compared to his regular season, or at least most of the regular season, and especially throughout most of 2020, he was doing this great job, spring MVP, I believe. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. And then he just got shut down in the last couple weeks of the season. He wasn't in form. In the playoffs, he wasn't in form. And I want to kind of watch him a lot more specifically, because you always learn different things about a player when you're individually watching them throughout the game versus trying to watch everybody at once. And then I also want to watch Santorin because, he got a ton of credit. I think kind of the narrative around those two players was very down on Blaber and very up on Santorin. And I want to just kind of revalidate a little bit the way both of them played. And I think the series where they both played against each other is a good opportunity to do that. And with Santorin going to Team Liquid now, and Cloud9 and Team Liquid being kind of the two favorites going into LCS 2021, it's pretty important to have a proper good read on both of those players, because I think they're both a big part of people's opinions about those teams. So we're going to review Blaber's perspective and Santorin's perspective and look specifically at what's happening in the jungle. It'll be a little different from when we did the Huni VOD review last week, and those VODs are up on YouTube, where I was specifically looking only at the one player at Huni, and we're going to be looking at two players this time on another team. So, we'll see how it works out, whether it gets kind of confusing, but hopefully we can follow along. So we're going to jump straight in with with game number 1, and I've got it in the draft here. So, we are in the draft, Cloud9 FlyQuest. We're getting towards the end of it here. Just going to quickly review it. I don't tend to spend a ton of time breaking down drafts. It's not my, primary area of strength, and I'm more concerned with how teams play out the drafts once they have them, but it's very important to the game, right? So, I don't want to skip it entirely. So, Cloud9 first picked Ezreal, and, Ezreal Yuumi was a big deal for them in this series, and I think they'd been playing it a lot in general. They experimented with a lot of interesting things in the bottom lane. They had played Sona bot lane as well, I think, like the Sona Lux. FlyQuest answered with Ashe, Lillia. That seems a lot more standard. You can go pick comp with this. You can go team fight with this. Cloud9 go for the Yuumi, so they have the Ezreal Yuumi, like bully lane, also big time scaling. Twisted Fate can play side, from the mid into the side lanes, so they can play into bot lane and help out, Ezreal Yuumi to get ahead more. They can play into top lane, and they could go tank in the top lane and like scale for team fights. They can go, like something that they'd want to snowball through with the Twisted Fate. So I think they've given themselves a lot of options here. FlyQuest answer with the Thresh, so it's big time kill lane in the bottom lane. Should scale fairly well as well. In terms of bans, so there were 2 bans into the jungle from FlyQuest, two bans into the jungle from Cloud9, so lots of jungle bans in general here. And FlyQuest go jungle early on, Cloud9 do not. FlyQuest go with the Shen after banning a couple of top laners that would be pretty happy dealing with the Shen, I think. Gangplank is going to be able to contest him in the first couple levels where Shen is really strong in lane, and then scales super hard. Jace also, I think, is can actually beat Shen in lane, range into melee, and get snowballed through as well. And again, Cloud9 was setting up a draft that could snowball through top lane if they wanted. So then they go with the Shen. Now they're going to be playing through the bot side of the map most likely. So what do we have here then? Cloud9 pull out the Nocturne. Vladimir Nocturne. Yeah, Shen is pretty strong in lane, especially the first few levels, right? After that, it starts to, usually, depending on the matchup, go a little different. So now they have a top lane they can play through. Nocturne, who usually doesn't do much pre-6. So you're really looking for level 6 Nocturne TF plays. And then they end up with the Azir. So, going to match the scaling on the other side. And you got really strong team fighting now. You can go for picks. Power of Evil has that kind of playmaking tool with the Azir ult. So I think early on in lane, TF should do fairly well. Ezreal Yuumi should probably, like, they're vulnerable to landing a hook and then getting, like, just blown up in lane. So you got to be careful with that, but they should be able to push a little bit early. It's a little hard because Ashe just on her own pushes a lot with her W. And the Vlad is going to have, a relatively easy lane against the Shen, but he's not supposed to, like, win his lane exactly. So in terms of the pathing decisions that they're going to have to make here, starting with blue side. and this is a game where, again, like, level 1s were a big deal in this series. So it's a little bit moot to talk about their pathing when I don't think it's going to get to happen. So maybe we won't worry about it too much. But, very quickly, Blaber's going to want to prioritize farming as much as he can early on. I got to change the stream title. Thank you for the notice there. And there we go. So Nocturne's going to want to path very safely to get one of the scuttle crabs, which means he needs to path towards his lane prio, which is going to be most likely bot lane, I would think. But maybe, like, Vlad has a little bit of a hard time wave clearing early, and Shen should be able to do it. They should be able to match. I think both side lanes are relatively evenly matched, so it's really going to just be like one of his lanes is going to have to spend a bunch of mana and maybe even a little bit of health to get lane prio to make it safe for Nocturne to take a crab. So it's going to be a team effort, I think. On the red side, Santorin can also farm very hard early, and Lillia clears super quick. And I think it's kind of the similar story again. Like, you don't really have a super clearly winning side lane. So, info on which way the other jungler's pathing is going to be very important so that they can both kind of see. I don't think either of them needs to really hard contest the first clear or the first scuttle. I think FlyQuest, and again, just before this finishes off or like actually resolves the level 1 here, or the start of the level 1 at least, I don't think FlyQuest needs to force something. Like, neither of these teams has to snowball to win and needs to get a very early advantage. We saw a lot of that at Worlds, where one of the teams would need something to happen to swing the game for them, like, very, very early, so they'd force these level 1s. Neither team here should feel a lot of pressure to force a level 1, but I think the Nocturne is a very clear pressure point, or like place for FlyQuest to pressure, and so there's a lot of incentive to them if they can set him behind early. Then, TF making a play onto a Shen on his own. TF, Vladimir, are probably not going to be able to kill him before, anytime early in the game. You're not going to be able to bully him out that hard. And bot lane too, like, TF, Ezreal, Yuumi lack this. I guess there's a gold card if you really get in a good position, but it's going to be a little bit hard, I think, to kill a Thresh lane. So you need the Nocturne to be part of those plays, and if you set the Nocturne behind, you have a huge advantage against the C9 comp. So I think C9 should be playing this fairly defensively, saying, we don't have the tools to pull a good level 1, first of all. They do have some tools with a Thresh hook, with Ashe W to slow, with a Shen taunt. They do have good tools for a level 1, and they're incentivized to shut us down even though they don't need to. So C9 should be approaching this level 1 very cautiously. They set up a bit of a line of scrimmage, but you see how far up Blaber is standing in this pixel bush. And obviously I guess he is thinking, hey, I've got a spell shield. So he spell shields the taunt, and that gets him out of the hook, and that's why he lives. But you do not want to skill spell shield first on Nocturne. That feels horrible. So that's already a win, right? Like, they didn't burn a flash or anything, but it's a win for Nocturne's clear speed. And Ignar spent his flash for it, I guess. That makes it a little more even. But now FlyQuest say, okay, we know he had to start spell shield. Why don't we, keep pushing in? So now they go on contesting, and Lillia, the classic, you know, contesting the opponent Raptors with Lillia is classic because of her AoE. Her ability to kill the small Raptors really, really quickly. So I guess like Blaber, like the reaction to that play at the start is a little tough. Blaber, I think they didn't have the info. Okay, maybe I'm not understanding something about the Nocturne skill. Saying spell shield gives you the attack speed buff. I must be missing something about the way that skill works. Wouldn't he normally skill? What does the E do again? No, the E is the path, the like smoke path, right? Okay, maybe I don't actually play Nocturne myself. The E is the fear. Okay, yeah. So normally you'd skill Q first. And the spell shades is W, right? Anyways, maybe it's not as bad as I'm thinking it is. Regardless, it's still, I don't think it's the skill you normally start with at this point. If it is, you know. Okay, so Q is the path, E is the fear. Gotcha. I think Blaber may have wanted to avoid, like, he probably knew they had some vision here, and he wanted to avoid maybe being seen on that vision to start, but not being seen also tells what his path is, so that's not really a big deal. I'm just trying to understand why he would, and especially because C9 saw, I think, Fly going for this Raptor contest with Niski here. So Niski here should see them. Yeah. So Niski knows. But Blaber still tries to like defend these with Sven and Vulcan rotating to help. And he just eats a whole bunch of free damage and has to flash and dies. So conceptually, I don't think it's the right call to be there knowing how strong Lillia is on Raptors, knowing that you've got Ashe and Thresh to deal with. Even though you know that Israel Yumi are supposed to be able there in time to help you, and they weren't there in time. It was close, like they were on the way. And you know that Niski's probably not going to be able to step out of mid lane to come and help you. Like, I think you just have to go, oh, I lost that. Even if you give up the time on that camp. Like, if you had headed for that camp and now you see, I'm not going to be able to get it. I'm not going to be able to defend this from their contest. Now you just sack that camp and say, I'm behind, you know, I'm behind in tempo by one camp. Okay, now they're just like all over him. They go, now he can't come back into this quadrant. He's got nothing to go for. So we just go attack him in the other quadrant. We know exactly what it's going to be. This game is not literally over, but just about. Yeah, the sunk cost fallacy I think does apply a little bit. Like he felt like, oh, I'm here to try for my Raptors. I can't just give them up. Like I might as well try now that I'm already here. But no, like I think right here you have to go, all right, well, hey look, their Ashe is already here. Their Thresh can't be far behind because why would he be? We're not going to be able to 3v2 this. The best it's going to be is a 3v3, but I'm already going to eat a bunch of damage early. Like this was just like Blaber making a terrible reactive call. He was put into an uncomfortable position by that first level 1 where he had to spell shield and reset. But he didn't react well. And that's important when you need to, you're put in a bad position, then decide what to do about it. And he didn't react well at all. But Santorin and Ignor, that was those two. No, Santorin and Power of Evil, sorry. Stepped out of lane here. And so here's where Blaber has now come out from the death, and he's going on his wolves. He has to smite the wolves even. And PoE in the mid lane is, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I don't know, somebody put a ward on blue early? Yeah, no, that was from the level 1 where they made him spell shield. They caught him in the pixel bush and chased him out, and then they dropped a ward there. Trinket ward. PoE, you know, I might naturally get he might naturally get shove on the Twisted Fader early. I'm not actually sure. I don't actually know the way that matchup plays out, but whether he was supposed to or whether he did something specific to get that push, you know, okay, so regardless of whether he was supposed to get that window to roam or not, he did, right? He got that window to roam. And he walked out, and they knew he was coming, but Blaber had no real option. Like, well, if I give this up, now he's probably at least like a full 2 levels behind. But he died again. He was in a bad spot. I don't think he could have done, Like, he could have not died. That would have been better. But he's doomed either way. His other option, instead of going into the wolves and trying to move up for this camp here, would maybe be to go for his, like, assume they took the red, and then he can go for his Krugs. But he has no good options there. And FlyQuest punished it really well. So, lots of credit to Santorin and PowerView for punishing the, first of all, for the whole team, for Ignar, Santorin, Wild Turtle, for putting him in that bad spot, and then Santorin and PowerView for recognizing the next step and sitting behind even further. And now the rest of this game is in a pretty rough spot. Again, like, Cloud9 do have scaling, but so do FlyQuest. So they do have a window back in, Cloud9 do, but not an easy one. Ignar's roaming a lot. Santorin can just, like, power clear from here. Look, he's up like almost 3 camps. He gets his reset off here. He can go for Raptors down to clearing bot side again, and just power farm, right? Because as FlyQuest, as Santorin, you're thinking none of my lanes are going to be under any threat. Nocturne's not going to gank them, and if he does spend any time ganking, he just falls that much further behind on hitting his level 6. So as Santorin, rather, you can just focus on farming and taking this dragon. Once you get a little bit of push in your mid and bot lanes, you can just play it out by the book here. Step by step, you can pretty happily use your level advantage and PoE having lane control to go threaten the enemy jungle. I'm going on. Okay, so he's going Wolves, Gromp, Santorin now. Wolves, Gromp, and then probably back to shadow the bot lane and maybe look for a dive. But looks like they don't have any health chunked off of Sven and Vulcan, so more of just a jungle invade. Ignar backs him up. And Blaber is just, meanwhile, like, I'll farm whatever camps I can reach whenever they're available. Okay, now the wave bounces out a little bit, so they do go for the dive. PoE comes into it. Yeah, I mean, this is just so easy. Which is not saying that what Santorin and his teammates are doing isn't good, because obviously it is good. They're doing the right thing. But you've got everybody in your team is kind of ahead of where they're supposed to be. So even if Azir wasn't normally going to get that push over TF at this state of the lane matchup, post 6 or whatever, not saying he isn't, but even if he wasn't, now he is, because he's so ahead. And Blaber just can't threaten anybody. There's nowhere really to go from here. So we'll probably speed relatively quickly through the rest of this game and just wait for the action points. Blaber's got his blue and his Gromp up now. Is he going to hand off blue to TF once he has this wave? Like, there's a little timer here that they could be doing a blue handoff. But instead, they're just trying to maintain. Okay, so this is an interesting. So there are some options here. Back it up a little bit. So right here, back it up a little more. Blaber's coming out of base. And there are some different options. Blue is there that he could hand it off to TF, and the blue might help TF get more prio and be able to pull off roam plays that he's having a little bit of trouble making because PoE has more control of the lane. Herald is also up. There's nothing on the bottom side of the map. Dragon's not out for a while yet. So my first inclination was, clear this wave, do a blue handoff, go for Gromp, have Blaber go for Gromp. Now, with the blue, you get prio in the next wave, and then you can make like a Herald play or possibly rotate into a bot lane play if bot's getting prio, but I don't think they are. I think they're more likely to try to play into top side and make late game Vladimir their win condition. But probably the piece of information that he's thinking about that I wasn't is that Licorice is probably saying I can't get enough prio to push him under tower, and also Shen has flash, and we're probably not going to be able to dive him, so they skip the blue. Niski doesn't rotate to help with the Herald, even though there was the blue handoff going off on the other side. He says, I'm going to take that very small window, and I'm going to get to that wave early and maintain prio that way. And now he backs off once Azir's back on the wave. Vladimir gets enough push to join the Herald take. There's no real rotation coming from... Okay, hold on. Let's not talk about that yet. There's no rotation coming from the bot lane yet. And C9 wouldn't have been able to rotate their bot lane for this. They're getting pushed on too much. And Yuumi definitely won't rotate on her own. Thresh can do that. But, even though Ezreal will be fine on his own to be left without his support, he can be self-sufficient. His flash is down, but he's still got his cleanse. He's got his E. He's a little hard to pin down. But the Yuumi can't walk around on her own. She would have had to reset and go out riding on Blaber's back or something like that. It hasn't done that. So now C9 are on this Herald, but you have a Shen ult to join this, even if he had to be farming under tower, which he wasn't. Licorice's push wasn't big enough to make the Shen last under tower for very long. I don't think the wave even reached the tower. It may have, but regardless, he can drop a few CS and Shen ult into this fight. FlyQuest have Lillia, who can get there very quickly with all that move speed. There's no flash on the Azir to worry about, but they can also throw an Ashe ult up here. This is a very, very easy Herald contest from Fly. But I think C9 know, so can C9... I think they actually probably could passively farm this out longer and rely on their Vladimir scaling and their Ezreal Yuumi scaling. I think that it would be acceptable for them to not have gone for this Herald. It's a little hard to judge what would have happened if they'd done what I said. They did the blue handoff and then take another wave or even 2 waves to set up for the Herald control or set up a top lane dive or something like that. I don't know if that would actually be better, but, obviously this doesn't work out. So the hindsight analysis allows us to say, maybe they should have tried something different, but I'm not convinced the other thing would have been better. But I just think in general, C9 don't need to push the pace of this game, and you can just maybe let the Herald... no, his R is not on cooldown. It might be a little hard for you guys to see, but it's not. The Shen ult. He hasn't used it anywhere. Maybe his C9 can just let this Herald sit, which doesn't feel good, but... So the other option is, if and when FlyQuest go for a Herald setup, can Cloud9 contest it? With TF ult and a Vladimir flank and Nocturne ult, and you throw all of that onto the Azir maybe, or the Lillia or whatever, I think C9 might have been in a better position to farm this out and then react to FlyQuest's objective setup. Because they're under no... they don't need to take a risk to try to get this Herald and get themselves back in the game. They can just scale it out as long as FlyQuest isn't snowballing on them. I think that's where I land on this one, is I don't think Cloud9 should have tried to force this objective. So anyways, Santorin walks in and just straight up smite steals it. Solo leads unengaged to contest it. Blaber has to flash out of that. And Blaber dies. And now FlyQuest get the Herald and a kill. Oh, flash hook misses. Good sidestep by Niski. Niski's really good, you guys. You know that I have a bias in favor of Niski. So I'll just throw that out there. Now they get a blue steal because they didn't do that blue handoff. They get Wolves and Gromp too. Wow. An entire quadrant of jungle. Now, Licorice, I'm not VODing this with Licorice, but he obviously feels he can't just leave that wave in the state and go back off and hide under tower, even though there was maybe a potential that they could have rotated and made a play on him. Okay, Niski's going for a play here. So, and Shen ult didn't get used. Solo walked into that fight and then flash taunted. Santorin arguably overstaying a little bit. Niski goes for a play on him. There's no Nocturne ult to follow. Shen ult saves Santorin. Blaber is trying desperately to finish the play Niski started, but it was just not the best advised play. And of course, Vladimir can't do anything about Shen ulting. He can't stop the Shen ult. So again, I don't think Cloud9 needed to find a punish on Santorin there. I understand why they wanted to and why Niski wanted to go for that and thought, hey, I have TF ult. I can go after this guy and we can try to pick him off. Right. Watching this again. Niski says, the wave's in a good state. Blaber's not too far away. Licorice is rotating to cut off the retreat. But I think he wasn't thinking about the Shen ult, or maybe he thought it had been used or something, or he thought Blaber was there a little sooner. Power of Evil reacted well to go and control that. And again, it's another just Cloud9. They want to get themselves back in the game, and they go for something. And you know, the Herald call, that was probably Blaber's call, but you know, as a team call, it was not necessary, and it set them further behind. Getting that Herald would not have on its own gotten Cloud9 back in the game, but losing it and losing the fight at it put them much further out of the game. So I think the risk reward was a little off. And then that pick attempt from Nisqy, that one's a little more forgivable to me, but I still think the risk reward there was a little bit off. And I think with Vladimir and with Ezreal Yuumi, you just need to be not anti-snowballing yourself. And that's kind of what they're doing. On the other side of that, the mindset here of we can lose by inches now or make a big play and try to get back in, and if it doesn't work, then we, you know, lose by a mile. I don't mind that mindset in general, but it depends on the comps you're in. And again, I think Cloud9 have enough scaling, and I think they have enough backline access that they could win team fights later as long as they're within reach, you know, after 2 or 3 items. They don't have an obvious scaling advantage late in the game up against Azir. You know, I think Ashe and Thresh scale fairly well. And I think Nocturne does his job later in the game. He does his job of ulting onto the backline and making some chaos using his GA and allowing Vladimir, like buying a bunch of time and space for Vladimir. Hey, thanks for the 100-bit cheer. Do I have any thoughts on developing a war-style stat for LoL? I don't think it's possible. I don't think a wins by replacement type model really applies well to League of Legends, where individual actions are not really replicable. And the actual data points you can use don't capture a lot of what a good or bad player decision is. I think maybe if there was far more granular data available, you might be able to approximate something like that, but I also think it's not really necessary. I don't think we need a stat like that. It can be beneficial in some ways, but all right, Cloud9 are finally finding a play of their own to go for. And they get it. So this is a play that I thought maybe they could have made earlier if they had avoided the Herald, done the blue handoff, retained mid-prio using the blue buff, and then go for this dive. They're a little stronger now than they were then, so they might not have been able to pull it off before. And also Shen didn't have his flash this time because he had used it for one of the earlier fights. But, you know, Cloud9 gets something. This game is it's pretty far gone, but it's not over yet. Like, the gold gap is still only 2K, surprisingly, even though, and it's because they got that top tower, I think, with Licorice setting that up, and Blaber and Nisqy following through on the play, and Sven and Vulcan both rotating mid to kind of catch this wave during it. You know, it is, okay, it's growing again a little bit as they pick up the waves, as FlyQuest pick up the waves, but, you know, it's a bit of a pushback play. And Cloud9, to their credit, are continuing to try to make those plays, and they aren't just throwing away every play. They've thrown a lot of plays so far. But that play by Blaber and Nisqy was at least a positive. From Santorin's side, what's he focusing on for closing this out? Okay, Nisqy's trying to receive a Blaber gank here, but that's going to be... This can't work. They can't close. Yeah, even going for that play loses you the top tower, but you're probably going to lose it anyways. Blaber didn't have his ult to try for anything. I think there's not a lot of opportunity for Blaber to do much here, and the Santorin is just kind of, he controlled the second dragon, he's controlling the second herald. Licorice is just farming out. We can speed this up a little more again. You see that, like, even when Cloud9 make one play that works, and then they try for another play on the other side lane, and when that doesn't work, the game is just naturally gold snowballing against them. So now, like, it was down to 2k right after that play on to solo, and now it's all the way back up to 3.5, almost 4. Mid inner's almost gone. Niski can't make real progress on bot outer down here. There's another free dragon for FlyQuest to take. You see, they had it's nice clean map setups for this. So you've got, coming into this, you've got top shoved all the way to the inner tower. Power Vival is securing the mid-wave push. I don't know if they saw the resets from Cloud9, but they have enough vision and enough tools to be safe here, with Azir having flash and everything else. Everybody's got flash here. So they've set up the waves that top and mid are pushed really deep. I don't know if PoE TPs for this, but it would be fine, like TP just to 100% secure the dragon for that tempo. Yeah, so he's teleporting out for tempo. Make sure they've got mid prio again. And Solo knows that if he goes and extends deep on this top wave, it gives at least a chance for himself to get attacked and picked off. So he's just going to back up the dragon play here. Make sure that mid prio is fine. He's got plenty of time to be hanging around here and making sure nothing bad happens before he has to go back top and catch Licorice's push. And so that's what happens. Third dragon to FlyQuest basically for free with just the right lane assignments and a teleport for tempo. But it's so free and easy for them to have that lane priority and to have that vision set up. That like macroing that way is pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Oh, Licorice thinks he's going to use that prio to steal a red. He might get it. Is he going to get it? Yep, he gets it. Licorice, the superstar. And he is the only remaining real win condition. His ability to scale. So now you're at a stage where Vulcan is starting to ride Blaber around a little bit and leaving Sven to wave clear mid. And they're kind of 1-3-1. Now Cloud9 are in a comp that is 1-3-1, but not to be like hitting 3 towers at once. This is very much a 1-3-1 and collapse for a fight. Nocturne wants to flank. TF can flank with his ult and try to hit the back line. So Cloud9 want to use their 1-3-1 to set up the map and find a favorable fight. But when they don't have enough prio and they're constantly catching the mid wave and not pushing it forward themselves, and they don't have any forward vision or the ability to control the waves to set themselves up. Like if you were listening to the podcast with Jensen Go before, he was saying one of the basic macro things that he had to kind of reteach some players in the past was you push the waves and then you use that lane control to set up your vision. When you are so far behind that you're under threat every time you try to push a wave up, then how are you supposed to be able to get any forward vision? So you see the mid wave is pushed up, so FlyQuest are rotating into this fog, placing more vision, clearing enemy vision, and now they can get a pick off of it. And so it just becomes so hard for Cloud9 to do anything here. Now this looks like it could be a decent fight for C9, but they're on the back foot the whole time, even though they got a kill there. Maybe we'll look at the execution of this team fight from Santorin's perspective. There's just C9 dump everything and get the one kill, and then they have to back out because they're about to lose multiple. And FlyQuest, if I'm going to criticize FlyQuest or something, like they don't need this fight. Getting a pick, like they do have some pretty good tools for a pick comp with the Ashe Thresh, the Lillia getting a sleep. I think Shen might have even been rotated for this play, so he's in bot lane right now. They don't need this play, right? They can kind of be passively winning a bit, but they probably also recognize that the Vladimir is scaling, and that's the only way. Like, they can't just sit around and completely rely on their own scaling. They do want to try to make this win happen. But at the same time, they're on 3 Drakes. It's like 3 minutes to the next one. I think they can afford 3 minutes. And then set up well with the Azir, the Thresh, the Ashe, all zoning, and get this soul. It's only a cloud soul though, so it's not the biggest deal. So anyways, FlyQuest don't need this play, but it's pretty low risk, right? Like they're not going to get wiped as long as they don't completely throw. And if they get a kill or two here, they get that much more free map control to set up that soul. So Santorin here lands his ball. Does he use the sleep? I think it might have expired on Blaber before he could ult him. But then he gets... How does he end up so far in there? So he walked forward a lot here. Yeah, that wasn't great from Santorin walking forward so far, but I think maybe he was trusting a bit too much in the Thresh to kind of peel and shield for him. Ugh. But it's fine. Like, even losing that death is not a big deal, and part of it is just because FlyQuest are so far ahead. So where do we go from here? So I think in terms of TF having his ult here, we can jump back to it for a second. So like obviously he could use his ult and find out where the enemy is. But so I think from the Cloud9 perspective here, they know they're getting like group invaded on. They've got a ward here that sees a little bit of it. And they can just kind of know from like where their fog of war is. They can have a pretty good suspicion of this. You don't need to confirm that they're here. I'm pretty sure Cloud9 know what's going on. I think Cloud9 might be believing that they can take this fight. Vlad is at like a full item, 2 components, and boots. Ezreal has Manamune. He doesn't have his next item finished though. Looks like he's going for a Trinity Force. I think they can take this fight. Like Licorice is setting up like, hey, I'm going to go in with a big ult there. But no, Blaber just walks forward and gets caught. I don't think Cloud9 wanted to take this fight. I think they knew they were getting invaded on. They don't have a red buff to defend even. I think this is just Blaber getting caught when it was unnecessary. I think C9 are posturing like, what if they expose themselves too much trying to get a pick? And then we can punish it. But Blaber's stopwatch. So C9 maybe think, okay, now we can collapse faster. We can defend this. And to their credit, they do defend it enough to get a kill and they don't lose anyone. But I don't think Cloud9 really wanted a fight there. They were just ready if it happened to respond to it. So you'd use the TF ult if you wanted a fight there. And clearly they didn't because Sven started to channel his recall. Or you use the ult there if like you're really concerned that they're about to surprise you with a pick and you got to be sure. So I don't think he should have used the TF ult proactively there. I think he ended up using it reactively once Blaber had started getting caught, and then he had to say, all right, I need to use this thing to like at least threaten their positioning by saying, I can go into your backline if you expose yourselves, or something like that. And then Niski ended up using the TF ult just for tempo to go into the top lane and get this top wave shoved all the way, which gives him a little bit of a window to pull some resets on the Cloud9 side, get a little bit of mid prio back, like get Niski back to base and then out of base again. But overall, I think Cloud9 knew that play was coming in from FlyQuest. They knew that they should be ready and had to be ready in case something broke out. And you could see that from Licorice's positioning. But I don't think they wanted a fight. Otherwise, Sven wouldn't have been recalling. And then in the end, Santorin just walked a little too far forward. I think he was a little too eager. Because FlyQuest also didn't need a fight there. At this stage of the game, they're setting up way in advance for Cloud Soul. So, Blaber made a mistake there for sure. So more kind of free and extended map control for FlyQuest. Now it's a minute out from Dragon. They are recalling as a group, except for Wild Turtle, who's rotating around to catch the mid wave. He must just not have much gold he needs to spend, and he's on 2 items right now. Even if he does have a little gold, like backing to buy 1 more component is not really going to be the big difference in the next team fight. Oh, now he's recalling. Interesting. So like a relatively basic principle here is you do want to recall as a team a lot of the time, and then move out of the base as a team. Because if you only have 1 or 2 people running out 10 seconds in advance of the other guys, well, they can't go and actually show themselves anywhere on the map if it's just the 1 or 2 of them and risk getting picked off. So they're going to have to wait for the other guys anyways. So you want to recall as a group. Right here, 3 of them recall. Wild Turtle doesn't, and I think it's just because he figures if all 4 of us go, we might lose this mid tower, which, and give up a big mid shove regardless of the tower dying, which will make it a little bit harder for us to get in position at the right timing for this dragon. So he stays enough to clear the wave, and then once the other 3 are out, then he finishes his reset. And there's still 45 seconds. It's enough. So that's fine. I think, yeah, he'll make it in time for this. So meanwhile, Power of Evil then took over from Wild Turtle to shove the next wave. Make sure they had mid-prio. They've had vision on it the whole time. Solo was able to push pretty comfortably into Licorice, and now he has his ult, so he can recall and use his ult to join this if necessary. FlyQuest are just continuing to fight for the mid wave, because what do FlyQuest have to be concerned about here? They have to be concerned about Cloud9, I guess, flanking them. Like Licorice getting a flank is something they're always going to be worried about, and the later in the game, the more they have to worry about it. Niski, Blaber jumping someone together with their ults is something they have to worry about, so they want to stay in a bit of a clump for that. They don't want to clump up too much in range of Vulcan and his Yuumi ult. But they can, I think in general, they do want to clump up a fair amount because they want to avoid, as long as they have eyes on Vladimir and knowing that he can't flank them, they can kind of stand in a death ball. If Vladimir has any chance to flank them, they can't stand in a close group because then they're just going to get wrecked. So FlyQuest make sure, like, now they've gained that little bit of time and vision to go start the dragon while C9 are finishing that mid wave. Licorice doesn't have anywhere forward to TP on because FlyQuest have kept the vision game clear. Now they're just burning down this dragon. Niski can TP in with a Yuumi ult. Okay, I kind of remember this team fight. So now they've got a Yuumi ult flanking them and Licorice on the other flank. Which, thinking back on it, like, I'm pretty sure Cloud9 can almost always get this kind of a setup given they have the TF ult and the Yuumi to go with the TF ult. You don't even need Licorice to TP behind them because it's now a pincer. And TF can always get behind you, doesn't need vision to do it. But FlyQuest, they can back up. Like, they're definitely backing up as 5 here. Azir is very good at that. Ashe is very good at that. Thresh is very good at that. So they're backing up. They're staying in a clump, and they just need to worry about the Vladimir and the Yuumi comboing on them now. So now Nocturne ult has come in. How do Blaber and Santorin play this fight? Watch from Santorin's perspective first. Where is he in there? What a mess. Everybody's named nearsighted now. Okay, a little more. Here we go. So here's Santorin. He's backing up. Now, what do I think he should do? I think he might want to try to land a sleep. It's really hard with Vladimir Pool to like land anything on him and peel him properly. But if he can, he wants to try to tag Licorice or something and probably try to sleep. Either try to sleep the TF or try to sleep the Vladimir, or ideally both. And then if you can get the Nocturne in, they're great. And just like disrupt their wombo, basically. I think that's what he's going for. And there's his Zonias. So he's tagged a couple people, and he used the ult on... He got it on Blaber for sure. And you think, yeah, he got it on Niski as well. So 2 of the 3 targets, that's great. Now what was Licorice able to do here? Licorice gets in, but PoE cleanses out. Wild Turtle kites and ults him. So Santorin peeled 2 people. Wild Turtle and PoE kind of kited back and peeled the 3rd one. And there goes the C9 Wombo. Meanwhile, from Blaber's perspective, like what he wants to do in this fight, he wants to dive in on probably the Ashe. Yeah, and that's the other angle of it. Niski and Vin weren't in there enough to follow up. What? I mean, no, Niski was. And I remember, like, remembering back to the time, I remember there was a lot of criticism on this fight. Like, oh, Sven wasn't there in time, and this is all kind of his fault. But I don't think the positioning was never going to get better than C9 for this. And C9 are answering the mid-wave here still. So they're moving here. He takes a second to throw his Ezreal ult, and that like slows him down by like 1 second. Like right here, say Sven is here and he's hitting somebody. Does that win them? Does that win them the fight? I don't think so. I don't think Sven being closer wins them this fight. I think they had to. I think FlyQuest won this fight. I don't think Cloud9 lost this fight. I think FlyQuest were ahead by a decent margin and a little further along in their scaling and at a little bit of a better point in their power curve because of that. And I think FlyQuest had huge positional advantage with that vision and with the mid wave and bot wave being set up where they were. And I think they did really well to back up when they did and then disrupt the wombo from Cloud9. And Cloud9 threw it in like the best, I think pretty much the best they could. Like, you know, we're looking at Blaber here. I think Blaber wants to go on the Ashe, but go on anybody really, and then just try to like disrupt stuff. And I think he's got, does he have a GA? Yeah, he's got his GA. So like, I don't think Blaber can like push any buttons better enough to make a difference here. It's the fact that you got slept by the Lillia. You got peeled. The Vladimir wasn't strong enough to actually blow anybody up, and there was a good QSS from PoE, I believe I saw. Was it a QSS? Or was that from Wild Turtle? I think FlyQuest just like outplayed this fight and won it. And I think Cloud9, losing the Cloud Soul is not the worst thing. So like maybe they could have given that up. But are they going to get a better fight? Are they going to get a better fight at the Elder or at the Baron than they got at that? I think that setup, they got their wombo off. And if FlyQuest had messed up their peel a little bit, maybe C9 can win that fight. I don't think Sven was far enough away that if FlyQuest mess up their peel, then, you know, Sven can't come in and clean up. Maybe he could clean that up. So I think like waiting a little longer for C9 gets Vlad in a better spot. The longer and longer the game goes, the better spot Vlad is in. And maybe you get lucky as C9 a little bit in getting a better map setup to contest the Elder. But like C9 did get their pincer from the Vlad coming from the bot side, the TF Yuumi coming from the top side, and of course the Nocturne ult comes from anywhere. Maybe what you can do to set up for the Elder is like try to burn a couple more flashes or other big skills first, and be in a better position for the fight that way. I don't know. Like obviously in retrospect, this didn't work out for Cloud9, and so we can criticize them for it. But I think I'm not convinced that it gets better for them if they give up the Cloud Soul here. Like the Cloud Soul does a little bit have helped with the Cloud Soul does help a little bit with setting up the map for the next objective too. So like the Cloud Soul goes in Fly's favor. That makes the game a little worse. The Yuumi goes with the TF because the TF can reposition the Yuumi then. Vlad had TP'd out from base onto a ward around the bottom lane somewhere, and there was no opportunity for the Yuumi to get onto the Vlad. In a perfect world, you'd love to see Yuumi riding on Vlad. But, you know, just for the sake of like the potential of that wombo, the Yuumi all going in and the Vlad damage and all that. At the same time, Vlad also kind of self-peels. Doesn't need the Yuumi healing and speed boosting him too much because he can just, you know, you pool away out of stuff. So I think I'd rather have the Yuumi on the TF pretty much always. Anyways, I mean, there were multiple points throughout this game right from level 1 where you'd say, like, this is FlyQuest's game to lose. I think it's somewhat to Cloud9's credit that there have had to be multiple of those to get it to this point. But now the game is very far out of reach for sure. With the Baron, with the Cloud Soul. Blaber goes for another kind of desperation play, but you've got a Shen ult to play against. I do think there was some opportunity in this game for Cloud9 to kind of slow play it a little bit and just try to farm out and get back into it. I think that first Herald was a little bit unnecessary. But I don't think this game, like, the real problem in this game was Blaber not knowing how to react, like not making a good choice on how to react to the extended level 1. Yeah, Iceborne and Ezreal might have been preferable here. I don't know that the armor does a whole lot for you, because Ashe, you know, when you've got Vlad, TF, Nocturne on your team, I don't think Ashe is ever supposed to hit your Ezreal. But the armor isn't the only point. Like, you get a little more wave clear from it, which is fine. I also don't think Ezreal needs to peel for himself at all in this. He's following up the engage. But, I mean, I can see reasons why it would kind of make sense. Because also you don't need Ezreal to be dealing a whole ton of damage. You do potentially need Ezreal being self-sufficient, right? Because the other 4 are basically all going in together, and you kind of have the Ezreal who might get somebody on him, solo backlining kind of thing. But, I don't know. I think this game was very, very difficult from Cloud9 from level 1 onwards. And I think they didn't handle it the best they could after that point, and none of this is relevant. But I like to watch the end of the game anyways. They didn't handle it the best they could from that point onward, but it wasn't the worst they could have handled it either. Like, they did have some positive things. But I think mostly this game just kind of turned on the level 1 lead. So takeaways, yeah. Blaber definitely didn't handle things super well. I think Santorin played out the early game quite well and, you know, put the right focus on neutrals. He smite stole that Herald. That might have swung things a little bit more on Cloud9's side. He got picked off that one time in the jungle. That wasn't a big deal. He team fought, I think, pretty well overall. More good team fighting than bad team fighting for sure. Yeah, so Santorin was better than Blaber that game. But a lot of what made Santorin better was the level 1s, which he was certainly part of. He gets partial credit for those level 1s. But he doesn't get full credit for the lead he had level 1, level 2. Game 2. This is game 2, right? Ezreal, Ashe Thresh, Yuumi. Okay, yeah, this is a different game. Cloud9 are back on blue side. They still first pick Ezreal. Ashe Thresh kind of kill lane bot again. They go for the Yuumi. This time they go for the Gangplank first rotation, and this is where... Did they go for the Vlad here before? No, they went for Nocturne Vlad down here, right? They went for the TF there. So then you get a Volibear out of FlyQuest. And then a Trundle ban, which I think Cloud9 had banned that last game. They banned the Lillia this time, so clearly they thought that Santorin's Lillia was a big problem. I think maybe they just didn't want to deal with that Raptor invade. I think the team fighting from Lillia was good, and like the forward map pressure coming out of the Azir Lillia and the Lillia Thresh was definitely a problem, but partly that was as much of a problem because FlyQuest had the lead that they could apply that pressure with. Orianna Corki, so they're, I guess, things that can like follow up a Volibear fairly well. You get the Shen again out of FlyQuest. We're going to play into the bot side of the map again. And you get Akali Lee Sin. So I'm not really going to try to judge like if these were good draft picks or not. I'm just trying to think of like what this means for the comps and for the win conditions on both sides. So you're doing Akali mid, Gangplank top. Gangplank into Shen, I think you're pretty happy with that as Cloud9. It's a 1-3-1 again. This one's a little more of like an isolated 1-3-1 where you're actually trying to win through the side lanes. And then the Lee Sin to like set it up, like win early and set it up. And now you know you're doing Lee Sin into Volibear. I have no idea if that's a good matchup or not. I don't think you're going to outclear the Volibear. But obviously Blaber's comfortable with the matchup. And yeah. Get a LeBlanc. Okay, so LeBlanc to match the side laning. Not sure about the lane matchup there. Like, the lane matchup, LeBlanc Akali, like, it's not a simple, like, ranged is greater than melee kind of a thing, because like Akali has some pretty good ways to kind of be slippery and to get in on you and kind of all in you. But the LeBlanc has the ignite, the Akali has the TP, so that's not as much of a threat of being all in. But I think the LeBlanc should be fine at least. Yeah. So FlyQuest were looking, I believe they were just straight up looking for Blaber in this pixel ward again, but they're like, nope, they caught me here last time, we're dropping a ward there and backing off. And they bring him all the way to the bot side. So in terms of pathing, and that ward does see what FlyQuest are going for, so there's not going to be as much of a level 1 problem for Cloud9 this time at least. In terms of pathing, you're probably looking at a little bit of prio from GP into Shen early. Again, the bot lane, I'm not sure whether Ash Thresh had prio because of the level 1 stuff. I think so, because of the way the level 1 played out. I don't know if they naturally get it. But Santorin's pathing top to bot, Blaber's pathing bot to top. I think getting the gangplank through the first few levels is a pretty good idea. And also avoiding that level 1 play that they probably suspected was coming in, like a match of that level 1 collapse onto the pixel brush, so that would be another reason why he'd kind of lean to the bot side to start. From Santorin's perspective, you don't play through the Shen, you play through the other side of the map, so it's very straightforward. You path top to bot. You look for the Ash Thresh to kind of set up to receive you. So he's doing red, Raptors. See if he goes straight to blue buff or if he does wolves first. He clears really fast, so he might, I think he has time to do wolves and then blue, and then I think Scuttle will be up then. And you can see the Volibear is definitely clearing faster than Lee Sin, which is what you'd expect. I think Santorin can do blue and Gromp before crap comes out. Yeah, and you've got that GP having prio very safely, knowing that it's very, very likely that the Volibear is going to path top to bottom. And if he does gank you this early, he's sacrificing a ton of tempo. So yeah, Santorin just gank Gromp. He even has like 15 seconds left over to sniff for a level 3 gank, but I don't think he's going to get it. Unless it's like a flash hook into a... Oh, flash flay. Beautiful. Oh, and then Santorin. Oh, boy. Ignar was awesome here. But Sven has cleanse. We have to notice that. And there's also an exhaust. So, like, C9 have a ton of tools here. I don't think, like... So I was saying, oh, this isn't going to work. I didn't think Santorin should go for it. But, there was the chance. Ash Thresh is a pretty good kill lane, but I just think into a heal, exhaust, flash, cleanse on an Ezreal. Man, so he lands the flash flay, the hook, it gets cleansed out with just awesome timing by Sven. Did the exhaust land on... Yeah, the exhaust on the Volibear, so he couldn't quite arrive to land that Q stun. If he lands the Q stun, they probably get the kill. And then maybe it's just a trade kill. But the trade kill there would have been in favor of Fly, because I think they would have gotten the first blood, and then they have Yuumi last hitting under tower. So, but now they lose the first blood. I mean, that was very close. But I don't think Santorin needed to try this. He and Ignar probably should have just said, like, we don't need to force this. Then again, scaling, I'd say, in this game is more on the side of Cloud9, so maybe they felt a little pressure. That wasn't a huge misplay or anything, but I think Sven's cleanse and Vulcan's exhaust were very clutch. On the other side of the map, yeah, I do think that the Gangplank crashing in waves as much as possible early here, knowing he won't be any jungler threat, I do think that's good. He wants to be putting his pressure on and then do what he's doing now, recalling and TPing and getting his call and all that kind of stuff. And he also had Blaber pathing up onto his side. So him crashing that wave earlier gave Blaber the option. And here's a question, is what was Blaber doing during this? Because he was pathing to the top side. Now he's on his top scuttle, which is very normal. So GP crashing this is just in case Santorin did anything creative in his path and actually, looped back around to contest the top crab. Now Licorice can run and help fight that top crab way ahead of Solo. So Licorice is doing a good thing in lane here. Blaber gets that top crab. Now during the replay, we have to just infer what he's doing from there. He did not reset. He did not invade for Krugs. He ran bot. Why? So I would have thought that after the crab there, or even depending on the exact timing, I think that gank happened before Blaber was actually on the crab. He could have probably just gone straight for Krugs and then come back for crab. That's probably what I think I would have leaned towards. But anyways, now they know. So now they know bot crab is still up because Santorin didn't take it first. So that's why he runs bot here. Top crab into bot crab. Niski has prio to come and join him. He smites it. So, this is a good play too. Taking Krugs would have been better for Blaber, but taking the bot crab is better for. So he still gets a camp that way, but it secures Sven and Vulcan in lane where they have a lead already. So it's good for them. I think Krugs would be a little bit more of a selfish play there, but he went for the double crab, which, kind of think of it as probably a little better for the team. So I actually do like that play. I do like that call from Blaber. Santorin's going to want to keep trying to get control through the bot side, especially because Shen's going to be 6 pretty soon. But he can't just leave these camps up. He still hasn't cleared his Krugs for the first time, so he needs to go clear this top side, get them, cycle that camp so that it comes back up, because the camps level up, right, and they're worth a little more golden XP each time. So if you can't just leave that camp for 10 minutes. You got to get it at some point. That's giving Zen and Vulcan a little more freedom to to be pushing here, because they should have a read on Santorin doing that. Santorin might go support Solo's push here. No, or I was going to say the other option is a reset. So he's resetting. Blaber is also working through his jungle a little bit. So probably in this little window here, backing up another 10 seconds, I can't see what the state of the top lane wave is, but Licorice should be communicating either, so they should probably know Santorin's on his Krugs here and say, there's a chance that he comes and tries to gank this if he doesn't just reset right away. And he probably doesn't have a whole lot of gold to spend, so you wouldn't know for sure that he's going to reset. If Gangplank is confident that he can get control of this wave and push that one in, then he needs to be calling Blaber to come and help him push it in, because Volibear might be there. If the Shen is going to be more likely to be able to clear this into Gangplank, or if Licorice says, I don't have much to gain by shoving this, and Blaber's saying, hey, I can't join you, I got to farm these camps, then Licorice is going to want to try to let this push into him. So I'm just not sure what the wave state is here, but... So I think Blaber, you can see he starts to kind of move up, and then I'm guessing he gets called off by Licorice, and Licorice is saying either I don't need you to help me ride this wave in, or I'm going to get the wave pushing towards me. It looks like Licorice is going to slow push this wave out a little more. But there is a little bit of risk. There's a ward here. So Volibear would either have to have come into the lane and be in this bush already, which would be, he's got flash and he's got his oranges. So I think Licorice feels pretty safe. He's got another wave joining up soon because of the slow push. But this is a little curious to me. I think you could attack the Shen as Cloud9 here. I think there was an opportunity. I'm backing up about 40 seconds here. I think there was an opportunity that Blaber could have, he started to move top. I think he could have finished that move top. I think Licorice could have spent a bunch of mana and some of his health trading hard with Solo here to get control of the wave and get this wave to the tower, and then he and Blaber might have been able to dive the Shen here. Now, the downside is they knew Volibear had been in the area, but if they knew Volibear had been in the area, then they shouldn't be letting Licorice push this out. I guess he's slow pushing this enough that if the volley was here, he's at least wasting a ton of tempo. And if the volley did stay long enough to gank right around now, if he had been in this lane bush or if he was coming through try and suddenly showed in the river here, then Licorice is like, fine, I'm going to spend my flash and my oranges, and you've just wasted like 30 plus seconds, and Blaber is going to continue getting way, way ahead of you. So I think maybe they're just willing to take that risk and take that trade if it happens. And here he's going to, I don't know, Licorice, he's not really going to get anything off of this wave crash that I can see. Like, he doesn't, is this trinket ward about to come up maybe? So he can maybe get a ward in off this wave crash. I don't think he can take a plate off of this. But I mean, it's a little bit of map control. I still think, you know, I think there was an opportunity for Blaber and Licorice to kind of like communicate this a little better and set this up for a dive. But Licorice would have had to be confident that he could trade down Solo's health below half by the time this wave got to tower. And Dragon is up, which is a variable I wasn't considering. So diving top probably would have given away Dragon. And I just invalidated all of my own analytical prep work there. For some reason, I thought we were past that point, but we were not. So actually, this is a pretty good call. Blaber gets to Dragon in a good timing. Now Licorice gets to recall with Shen having to catch this big wave. So Shen, if he goes right now and TP's down, Niski is TPing out from base there, had a buy. Shen can't come and help contest this Dragon because he's going to lose like a cannon wave. So actually, this is a really good macro play by them. And if we read too much into Blaber leaning top a little bit there before going back to his Gromp, he may have actually been thinking, we're going to prep for a dive, and then his team called him off. Oh, what's going on here? So maybe Blaber was thinking what I was thinking, and then someone else on the team, or he himself, I don't actually know. You can't know this without being a comms. Maybe they're like, no, we're not going to go for a top lane dive. We're going to rotate back around for the bot. For the bot wave, Gangplank has ult and even TP if needed. You know, we're set up really well for this if Licorice slow pushes to crash the wave as we go on Dragon. Anyways, they take the Dragon. Blaber wants the honey fruit, I guess. No, he wants the crab. Ignar hooks the crab by accident, but that's fine. Blaber gets a nice little insect that achieves nothing and is going to die, isn't he? Oh boy. We're going to have to rewatch this fight a couple of times. Niski doesn't quite get Ignar. Oh, that feels terrible. It's going to be 4-1. Yeah. Wow. So Cloud9 were doing so well up to this point. Look, they're up 1,000 gold. They're up a Dragon that they just secured. They are doing really smart things rotationally. And at this point in the game, so Shen ult is up. Cloud9 have the scaling advantage. They're not trying to force anything here. This is just a simple, like, we're here first on a mid lane. Power of Evil, like, they probably saw him recalling somewhere. They probably know. They might not have seen his recall animation, but they probably know he's recalled around here. But Blaber's a little low. Niski has gone back mid. I think this is just miscommunication from Cloud9. I don't think they respected the potential that Ignar and Santorin were going to engage on them here. Because Niski was going back mid. Like, okay, fine. They didn't agree that we're going to try to secure this scuttle before we get out. Ignar brings in Santorin, the two of them. Blaber also might have been able to get out there rather than going back in. But he's trying to set up Niski. The Shen ult is always going to be able, you know, it just casts faster than TP, so the Shen ult can always come in before the Gangplank ult, or the Gangplank TP. And Ashe is there a little bit ahead of Ezreal, and also probably does a lot more damage at this point. So they finish off the Ashe, so that's a pretty good trade. But now Niski, like, oh. That's so close. Does it win them the fight if they kill Thresh there? I don't know. At least makes it a lot closer. Maybe Vulcan can get out if they killed the Thresh there. So like that goes about as bad as it possibly could for C9, and there was no need for a fight to happen. And it was just because they, you know, if they Kali had been there from the start, then the whole, like, the little insect Blaber pulled probably sets up a kill very quickly instead of, you know, instead of the fight starting off on so much the wrong foot. But, like, Blaber greeted for the crab, and Niski was going back mid, so those two just weren't on the same page. Sven was also all the way back in the bot lane already. Watch it one more time. Where's the gangplank ult? Oh, it dropped into the river there. Yeah, FlyQuest are just moving proactively as a team with Ignar and Santorin making that play. Cloud9 were not a team. And Blaber ends up looking the worst for it, right? Because he's the one who got caught and killed first. But I think this was a team issue as much as anything. So far this game, Santorin and Blaber have both done a couple things. Like, they've each done something they shouldn't really have done. But Santorin did it in service of a play that potentially could have snowballed them the win through the bot lane on that very early gank. And Blaber did it because he wanted to scuttle crab. All right, let's back this up a little. Coming out of replays is always so frustrating because you lose all of the rotational play that led up to this. You lose your place in what are they playing for, what are they trying to set up right now. So FlyQuest are first on this. I'm not sure what Cloud9 know about where Solo is. Blaber's on the Gromp for some reason. I guess they have enough time that he can finish it and still be there on the fight. Licorice, I think, he doesn't have ult or TP. And Solo still has TP because he used Salt for the last one. So C9 can't really contest this. They're contesting 4v5. That's basically what this is. And I don't know. So, like, C9 do have their cooldowns, but so do FlyQuest. Thresh is still level 5, Yuumi is still level 5, but that's not a big deal either way. That hurts C9 a little more. I think Yuumi ult is more influential. I don't think C9 need to be contesting this, especially because they scale better. Niski goes solo on Power of Evil on the side. Meanwhile, Blaber's Van Vulcan walk in. Santorin flashes on Blaber, ults on him. Oh, Ignar, look at that flash play to finish it off. Catches Blaber, Wing out. Beauty. I don't know, people don't appreciate Ignar. Like, people know Ignar is good, but I think a lot of people don't treat him as good as he really is. But Santorin made that play onto Blaber, which is good. Yeah. So, yeah. Ultimately, the big takeaway there is Cloud9. They were going into a 4v5 with Gangplank having no ult or TP and Shen having TP. They're going into a 4v5 trying to defend a Herald that they don't need. That doesn't achieve their win condition. And doesn't really achieve FlyQuest's win condition either, necessarily. It was a bad team call from Cloud9. And now after this, so they lose 2. Now, they did knock a couple of health bars really low, so they think we've got a little window here to shove this wave for free and, like, deny some CS on the tower. All right, here you hit this CS and you back. And they're trying to back in the bush. So they were kind of doing that, but Ignar hung around a really long time. Made a great read here. In comes Santorin. GP ult, Yuumi ult to counter it. Okay. Ooh, look at that. Oh, Wild Turtle blocks it. Okay, gets him. Okay, I thought that was not a good stay from Sven and Vulcan, but I wasn't thinking about the Gangplank ult, which had just come up. So, I mean, it doesn't really mean much. It's a little bit of gold to the Ezreal. It's not a huge deal either way, but it is a bit of a win for C9. All right. Come out of the replay. So C9 haven't taken a tower yet. I think they would have liked to take one side lane tower at this point Cloud9 would, so that they can. It's that much easier to get, you know, a deep push on one side of the map and play your 1-3-1 better. With the dragon coming up in 45 seconds here, but Gangplank having no TP, Akali having no TP, you don't really have anybody you can comfortably put in the top lane and still be able to contest dragon. So I think they've got Sven and Vulcan. I believe during that replay they reset and came back out. I think they've got them top lane here because they're going to give up this dragon and try to take the top tower basically as a trade for it. And Cloud9, I think that's a good call. They don't need to win off dragon stacking. And they got the first dragon, right? So they're not giving up really quick stacks. So yeah, they're just playing for the tower and giving up the dragon. Blaber's even going to go and help with that. Excuse me. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Niski tries to 1v1 Power of Evil and Santorin. Like, how far ahead did Santorin go for this? Yeah, this is a bit of a misplay from Niski, I think. Knowing that the other team, like, knowing that you're sacrificing the dragon here and that you have no control at all of the bot side of the map. But I think Niski overestimated his ability to just 100-0 Power of Evil. He thought he could do it really quickly. Either he wasn't thinking about the Volibear having the chance to be there, or he thought he could do it fast enough that it wouldn't matter. Cut down there and show us again. But it's a good read by Santorin, because he's not going to be able to do anything to Gangplank. He doesn't have anything else to be spending his time on right now. So he just goes and covers Power of Evil's wave crash. Oh, and Solo used the Shen ult on that also. That's why he couldn't kill him, of course. There's the Shen ult there. He would have been, you know, he might have lived anyways. I think he would have lived anyways, but it was close. But regardless, you know, Niski goes in, trying to 1v1, trying to pull it back. I think it's a mistake by Niski. You know, he's pretty far behind. The LeBlanc was 2-0 and 2 already. Didn't have any tankiness in her items, but Niski just wasn't ahead. He wasn't up a level. He didn't have a completed item. So in the end, C9 do get their dragon for tower trade, but they lost first tower out of it and a kill. And now the LeBlanc is just that much more fed because Santorin and Solo gave the LeBlanc what she needed in that instance. And she had gotten fed out of that team fight before. So, okay, Blaber was covering here. They lose the whole wave. I'm going to look at, again, what Blaber's doing. So during this push, Blaber now goes... Why isn't he on the tower with them right here is what I'm wondering. So he's stealing Raptors, and now he's moving to... What? Gank mid? He's just leaving. Now he's going back. He's hitting the vision cone. Now he goes on Krugs. If Blaber goes on the tower with them there that whole time, I think they can finish it. I think he does enough damage that, like, the extra tankiness the turret would get. Okay, he wasn't actually going on Krugs. I think he was just riding them in. But he had his Q cooldown. I don't know. Wow, is this going to be another kill? Ouch. That's a fed LeBlanc for you right there. And Ignar shadowing the LeBlanc. You can't possibly live. That's not okay. Oh, no. Okay, he's alive. Yeah. This game is pretty hopeless. I mean, the gold is even, but look how strong that LeBlanc is. It's not over. But it feels pretty bad. Like, mentally, if you're Cloud9 right now, I think you're feeling pretty bad. Even though, objectively speaking, C9 are in a decent position still. They still scale well in the Akali and the Gangplank. The problem is that even though the teams overall seem like they have equal team resources, the LeBlanc is just unmatchable. She can kill the Gangplank, she can kill the Akali, and she's got Shen to help her out. I don't think you're going to be able to win the other side lane anywhere near hard enough to compensate for losing LeBlanc's lane. So that's what feels so bad about this, is just you don't have an answer. Even though the two teams have very similar resources overall, and overall on paper, Cloud9 do scale well. I'm not sure at what point the Akali would become strong enough that she could, again, kill the LeBlanc. I think it's going to be a while. And this stems back to that lost team fight at Dragon, where the LeBlanc got fed because Niski had given up the play already. Like, not given up, but like was going back mid after the play already. Ooh, we got something else breaking out here. And Blaber was sticking around. Just that team desync led to all of this, really. So now Cloud9, why do they feel they desperately need this Herald? Maybe they feel like 5v5, and they do have Gangplank TP and ult this time, and he's walking. Like, he had bot prio into the Shen, and now he's walking mid to cover. So this is not really Gangplank walking to be there in time for the team fight, because obviously he's not. He's walking to cover the mid wave while this 4v4 fight potentially happens. And if the fight doesn't break out fast enough, then maybe he eventually gets there in time to help the fight without TPing. And he can help with his ult to buy time there. So here goes the Shen ult proactively. Probably Shen onto the LeBlanc so she can just go in really aggressive. Yeah, there's the Shen ult onto the LeBlanc, goes in hard. Blaber has to get out of there. Sven has to get out of there. Here's the Yuumi ult to turn it around. Niski gets in the back line. Okay. Ooh, really good flay on Niski. Was that on the second half of his ult? I think it was. So, like, Gangplank does have Trinity Force. Like, they've got a big core item on everybody. Ezreal hasn't transformed his item yet, but not the biggest deal. So Niski goes on, he's following the LeBlanc around. But here, second half of his ult goes in, flayed out of it, and so it doesn't hit the Ashe. Oh, I'm almost certain Ashe is dead there, if not for Ignar's flay. So C9 win it 1-0, but that could have been a massive stomp fight, honestly. It almost was. But that was incredible from Ignar. Blaber got chunked out early. He didn't even get to ult in this fight. Let's watch Santorin, though. And what should Blaber be doing? If he can get on the Ashe and disrupt her damage output, that's one thing. I don't think he needs to, like, peel the Volibear or anything like that. He wants to just, like, get in the back line with everybody. So let's watch this from Santorin's perspective. So he's going to go in alongside the LeBlanc. He ults in. So he helps chase out Blaber and Sven. And now he's just tanking up very comfortably here. Now he's trying to help peel Niski. But he can't see. He has to be able to see somebody to click on them to stun them, and he can't do it. So I think he did kind of what he could do in that fight, but Santorin couldn't do much. And from Blaber's side of it, what happens if he doesn't back up with this whole group here? What happens if he backs up this way and the other group goes that way so that he can then, like, try to get behind somebody? That's not going to work. I think they just go on him then, and he's just caught out on his own and dies. So he goes in with his shield to try to help them back up and buy enough time for the Gangplank to get involved. He gets pushed out. The Yuumi is peeling. Yeah, I don't really think Blaber needed to do much different there. Maybe around here he can, like, Q on somebody. He just misses his Q on Shen. Maybe he can instead here be using his Q into this area and trying to help finish someone off. But he does end up helping kill Power of Evil. I think Blaber had an opportunity to do a little more in that fight. But I don't see anything really egregious or really special from either of the junglers there. But C9 win that, which I'm a little surprised by. Attacking the LeBlanc that hard and backing up from her initial engage worked out fairly well. Niski did a lot in the back line and nearly did a lot more, but got outplayed by the Thresh pretty hard. Like, this is a game where Niski is 1-4-2, and maybe like 2 of those deaths maybe shouldn't have happened, and a little bit was out of sync with his team, but he's come so close to having it go the other direction. Yeah. Santorin tanks a lot of Ezreal Qs there. That was pretty good. I think like Santorin has definitely been doing better than Blaber this game too. It seems like some of the positive things Blaber's been doing appear from the outside to be team calls. And I don't think Blaber's been bad, but I think he's been following team calls, and then at other times not following team calls in the the bot crab thing. And in that team fight again, I think he could have done a little more. Now Niski wants to try to kill the Shen. I don't think he can. He's got the second half of his ult still. Nah, you can't kill this guy. Meanwhile, Dragon is up, of course. But I guess like Niski there, he probably didn't think he could kill the Shen, but he thought he could punish him for trying. Either like if he tried to Shen ult into defending this Dragon, then he's gonna almost die before he goes, or at least you just get enough health off him that he doesn't want to Shen ult in anyways. But what I can't see right now is how things are playing out right around the Dragon there, but it looks like Cloud9 just choose to give it up because they were potentially getting flanked by the LeBlanc, it looks like. Paraviva was walking around the backside of the pit here. C9 didn't have vision in that area. So Zven and Vulcan up here thought, no, we're going to get flanked and blown up. We got to just give this one up. And they also probably realized we can give up this Dragon. We're okay. We're scaling. We're fine. So... and what they take for that in exchange is Niski getting this push, which gives them some map control, but it's not gaining them anything really direct. Here's a scenario where, you know, with that cannon and those few minions, you might have been able to get the wave pushing towards you, but what does that gain you, right? You might even be able to get a freeze. I'm not sure. I don't think so, but maybe. You could do a lot of things with the cannon wave. But what does that gain you? If you're Cloud9, I think you want to be pushing this forward. You just don't want to get froze on. That's the biggest thing. But you have no objectives to play for. You want to be playing just for like tempo, like farm faster than them, recall faster than them, and be ready to have options when the next big objective comes up, which Baron technically is coming up in less than a minute, but nobody's going to be playing for that right now. And Dragon's 4 minutes away, so I think Niski did the right thing there. He's just trying to like push the sides as fast as he can and have windows to step out of that lane and do something. So here he doesn't have enough vision. Niski's pushing the bottom wave out, and he doesn't have enough vision to... I try not to move my mouse and cover the stuff with the controls there. He doesn't have enough vision to safely go into river or safely hit the tower. So he's waiting for this backup to arrive. And now they're rotating on the next wave. They've got a cannon wave here, but it's getting cleared out pretty well by Paraviva. So they're not going to be able to take this tower yet, but they also can't have a playmate on them. Did Niski take 2 shower shots there? That hurts a little. Obviously, it literally hurts. But it's fine. Like, Cloud9 don't have to be taking towers really quickly here. They just want to be making progress. Cloud9 can give up the next Dragon if they get something for it, but they don't want to. And I think they're strong enough that, you know, they just won the last team fight. Oh boy. So they probably feel like they can win another one. They don't want to isolate Niski in a side lane with Power of Evil because this LeBlanc is still fed. And Niski is greeting for Krugs there and loses his flash. let's see again here. Blaber's in that jungle quadrant. Sven and Vulcan have a bunch of mid prio, so they might, C9 might think FlyQuest have to collapse to defend this push when the cannon wave is coming in next. Or was that just the blue cannon wave there? No, this is a blue cannon wave here. So Niski probably thinks mid is the pressure point right now. FlyQuest aren't going to give up that mid push just to come and attack me. So he probably feels pretty safe on Krugs because of that. But there's a lack of vision. Like, Niski's Trinket Ward is not up before he does the Krugs. It comes up during. That's something I wanted to check. Blaber has a ward that he maybe could have placed somewhere in here, but they have looks like the Crab Shine. C9 have the Crab Shine and River there, but that's not enough. That's a little bit of false security. So Niski had teammates coming. I don't think they're going to be able to get anything with this collapse. Unless Blaber can be really aggressive. Ignar catches Sven and Vulcan rotating very aggressively. The Shen out comes. Here comes the Licorice TP. That's a win for FlyQuest. Because Shen still has TP, of course. And they got Flash Cleanse off Sven and Heal Exhaust off Vulcan. And they only spent an Ignite and a Shen ult. Yeah, it's a huge win for FlyQuest. So 2 minutes from now, all those summoners are still going to be down. Did Cloud9 have Tribrush warded? They have it warded now. I'm not convinced they did before. No, that's a fresh ward right here. See, that's a fresh Cloud9 ward here. They didn't have it before when Niski got caught. So that was a smart, aggressive play by FlyQuest to see that. Oh boy. They had enough time before that mid push came in from Sven and Vulcan. No. If Cloud9 did have that Tribrush warded before, then that's a bigger mistake from Niski, but I mean, Akali generally is fairly safe. So you normally wouldn't have expected to have to burn your flash there. But I guess he just underestimated how much damage LeBlanc was going to do. Yeah. So Licorice here, he hung around in the bush and he thinks, aha, I can clear a free wave here. And there's no way they will have stayed, but they have that shrine. So he should have known that the LeBlanc hadn't left. Must have thought she was recalling in the bush or something. Yeah. He thought he was going to deny 2 waves. But instead, he just dies. I don't know if this is like individual tilt from Cloud9 members. Oh, I mean, and those minions did finish the tower. But then he should have known that somebody would stay around. Like, hey, here's a massive vulnerability from FlyQuest that this tower is going to go down. So I'm sure none of them will stay and protect it. I think this game is getting pretty hard for Blaber to play. He's supposed to be part of like the 3-man mid lane group, while the Akali and the Gangplank kind of do their own thing in the side lanes. But again, with this LeBlanc so fed for most of the game, it's just making it really hard for Cloud9 to pull off their game plan. And so maybe Blaber is supposed to be able to like rotate into one of those lanes and find an outman scenario. I don't know. Maybe he should have been more aggressive to set up his solo laners. And dropped some more of his own farm. Can't say I saw specific timings for him to do it, but other than that one time, yeah, no, I guess that one time earlier on where they could have gone for that dive with him and Licorice. Okay, so the next dragon. Again, I think Cloud9 can give this up, but they don't want to. It does hurt to give up. And they still think they can win a team fight. So Licorice is already here because he's the one who pushed out bot lane here and then joined to contest the mid wave, which for some reason Blaber is the one clearing. I don't know why Sven isn't clearing that wave. Like, to me, it makes a lot more sense here for... Okay, Sven and Vulcan are just coming out from base. Like, throw the Yuumi onto the Lee Sin and get the Ezreal to clear that wave, to me. But I guess he might have missed an extra CS or two. I mean, Blaber does anyways. But FlyQuest have a way better position on this dragon. And they have Shen ult now. Niski is running all the way down, has TP, and has this ward to go on, but I don't think there's another one that's better than that. I don't think there's anything behind them here. Pewie's looking to flank. All right. So Blaber's goals in this fight, maybe you can insect the Ashe. I don't think you need to peel for the Ezreal. The Gangplank is going to control this zone. I think you go in alongside the Akali onto backline together. Try to help her finish a target there and create a little extra chaos. I'm pretty sure that's what you want to do as Blaber here. Maybe carry in a Yuumi. Santorin goes in, right up the gut. FlyQuest just kind of blow everybody up. Stun on Niski. All right. So, right around here, Niski still needs at least 4 seconds to get into this fight. What's the initial stun there? It's an Ashe ult, I guess. Onto Sven. No. So that was Santorin flash stun into an Ashe ult. And that's on Sven and Vulcan, who are frontlining. You don't really have anybody to frontline. Like maybe and he doesn't have cleanse up right now either. Maybe the Lee Sin can take that and live a little longer and then W out. But if you get engaged on in general, I think you're in a bit of trouble. If you're C9. Now Niski is here now, but this fight's already over. Like, doesn't really matter. So one question is, could Niski have been here sooner? But he wasn't, right? And we're trying to evaluate Blaber and Santorin. So Blaber has to know, hey, Niski's not here yet. He's not doing anything wrong. Sven and Vulcan just tank and engage here. There's enough time. I think this is when we're like, okay, they've got Shen ult to come and our Akali's not here in time. Push mid. We don't have this. And what does Niski do when he hits this mid? Is he calling for them to give it up? I think if you can back up a lot harder from this, maybe you can bait in and engage, use the Yuumi ult and the Gangplank barrels, and then turn the fight around, and that buys you enough time for the Akali to get here. Maybe that's it. But, and that was another big Ignar flash play, I think. Yeah. So I think like Cloud9 had a way they could win that fight. But they just needed to, like, if they had cleanse, that works out so much better because Sven might be able to cleanse the initial CC, then back up with the Yuumi ult, and now everything's in the position you want. And it looks like cleanse was very close. Like, it was 10 seconds. But it was just too late. Like, I think you needed to call this fight off if you're Cloud9. Because it was third dragon. Like, it wasn't soul. I think Cloud9 also, they can win that fight if FlyQuest don't get their initial CC layered well enough onto Sven. Or if Power of Evil doesn't land his damage like quickly enough in the middle of all that. So again, like, this is another example of it, I think a couple times in last game and this game, that Cloud9 had team fights that could have won if FlyQuest hadn't been, close to perfect in their execution. But FlyQuest just their team fighting was good enough that Cloud9's, against a worse team, Cloud9 probably does win those team fights with the same setups, even with kind of the criticisms we're putting in place about whether they should have taken them or not. I think Cloud9 plays that team fight better than, I don't know, Evil Geniuses, 100 Thieves, But FlyQuest just were too on point with layering the CC on the right targets. Ignar just clutching every one of these fights in pretty massive ways. And so FlyQuest's teamfighting was too good for Cloud9 to punish. And that's the kind of thing where... Oh, okay. And FlyQuest went for the Baron instead of the Dragon, so Cloud9 get the Dragon. Alright. This is a bit of a mistake from FlyQuest to not just accept that trade. What does Blaber do here? Santorin doesn't have flash. Neither does Blaber. Blaber cues onto Wild Turtle there. It's helping to chase Power of Evil. Yeah, doesn't do anything special. This was Sven and Iski, I think, mostly. So that was a total ace and a tower right after that Baron. Oh boy, after I praise FlyQuest so much. And they go in and throw like that. Come on, you guys. FlyQuest team fighting so good. Now here comes Cloud9. And they're like, wait, maybe we can close off that ace. No, you can't. No, you can't. I think they can pick off Santorin here before the others come back. But he's like, no, I'm just going to kill Blaber under the tower. Oh no, the counter throw. This hurts. I don't want to watch this. So here's the big chase. Solo TP. Blast going in. Taunt. Power of Evil gets the Shen ult. That's a pretty bad Shen ult. The chase is still going on. Where's the yakety sax? Oh no, what? What? I do not remember this. Maybe I blocked it out. Alright, here we go. Sven, it's your time to shine. Licorice oranges out of the Ash ult beautifully. Sven goes in. Niski goes in. Niski goes out. Niski goes in with the Yuumi. They get solo. Niski goes on Santorin and gets him. Power of Evil. Finishes Niski. It's like calling a horse race and somebody keeps like getting a nose ahead. We are throwing less hard than you. No, we are throwing less hard than you. Look at Solo's face. Okay. Well. So. That was a better game. Again, a better game from Santorin than from Blaber. I think some team fighting stuff was good. I think that early gank I don't really have a problem with, even though it failed and gave up first blood. Like, it's a very small problem. Getting out executed. It was something you didn't need to go for. But, you know, it was what it was. Ignar was the star of that game to me. Power of Evil was also good. But he was working from a position of pretty major strength the entire time. Okay, we're moving into game 3. FlyQuest on blue side. They first picked Graves because I don't remember the exact bans. I could look it up, but you know, Graves I assume was banned before. Either that or it's just something FlyQuest like to do on blue side and they haven't been on blue side yet. Cloud9 stick with the Ezreal Yuumi. So from one perspective, I mean, they just won a game with it, but I don't really think they won a game because of it. They lost game 1, but like if you're Cloud9 in this series, I think you feel like you've been getting outplayed mostly, like you haven't been playing as well, but game 1 is a little bit of a write-off because of the way the level 1 went. And then game 2, I mean, you just won game 2, even though maybe you didn't deserve it, but they made bigger mistakes than you did, so you feel kind of okay with that, and again, you won. So continuing to go with this so far seems okay. FlyQuest go with Senna and then a third Shen. Cloud9 once again matched the Gangplank into Shen. I think that matchup worked out fairly well for them. FlyQuest banned the Lee Sin and the Akali this time. Now, Niski didn't get as much done in that Akali game as I think he could have, but a lot of that had to do with Ignar. PoE had a bigger influence on the game overall than Niski in Game 2. But a lot of that was because of how much PoE got fed in that first team fight where FlyQuest got the 4-for-1. And that was not a fight that like an individual out-executed on. That was FlyQuest were working as a team, and Cloud9 were not working as a team. Niski had gone back to the mid lane. Blaber and Vulcan stayed to take the crab. FlyQuest jumped on that opening and punished it really hard. And Niski was just behind from there and on out. And I think Niski had a couple mistakes from there and didn't play a perfect game by any means. He didn't even play a great game, but I think he was okay from there. But he was working from a disadvantage, and Ignar really stuffed him really hard a couple of times. So Niski was like a B or a probably a B in that game. And PoE, I think, working with his lead did okay. He'd be more like an A-, maybe a B+, but he was better in that game. But I don't think Niski was bad in that game by any means. So with the Lee Sin banned, and obviously the Akali was threatening enough from FlyQuest's perspective that they feel like if we didn't get that kind of a lead, either like we don't want to play that matchup into it this time, or we feel like if we don't get that kind of a lead, it's going to be a bigger problem, so we don't want to deal with it. And it was a pretty big problem. Like, they had to work really hard to deal with that Akali. And then the Lee Sin, just because I guess Blaber was kind of comfortable on it, and it did accomplish some things early on. So Cloud9 go for a different early game-oriented, like, really strong early ganking jungler. It's magic damage in the Gragas to go with the gangplank. Then you get Azir and Nautilus, big-time scaling team fighting. So this is another really big scaling team fighting comp from FlyQuest, easy to execute. Whereas what we're setting up for here from Cloud9 is, again, a more difficult to execute, probably double side laning. Okay, one side lane. So more of a 4-1 this time, but you can throw Zoe on the side lane and have the Ezreal Yuumi in the mid lane. And it's a lot of poke. So Cloud9 want to set up first on an objective with this one. Cloud9's comp is definitely nowhere near as straightforward. They don't just have the big scale up in 5v5 kind of a thing. They want to make some plays with the Gragas. They want to land poke. Poke is harder to play in some ways. In other ways, it's easy to play. But they don't have a front line, for one thing. That makes it harder to play. For sure. So what are we looking at for pathing here? Santorin will probably want to path top to bot. Cover his bot lane. Don't worry about the Shen. You're not going to be able to punish the gangplank because, I mean, actually, Graves and Shen might be able to take out the gangplank on a gank. He'll probably just use his oranges out of the taunt, assuming that he's leveled up enough to have that skill. But I don't think you're going to be able to easily gank the gangplank here. So, yeah, I don't feel great about Cloud9 drafting themselves into such a high degree of difficulty here. On Blaber's side, you can try to play a little bit through the gangplank again, and he did this last game where he pathed. His initial path brought him onto gangplank's side because the gangplank is pretty safe from ganks, and you want to get him ahead. You want to nurse him through those first 2 levels against the Shen. FlyQuest are the ones being active on a level 1 again. Last game it didn't work out. Level 1 it, went a big way towards winning the game. Ignar lands a hook here, and Sven has to flash. Hold on. Why does this hook land? That's not okay. That was like close to max range hook, and it leads to 2 flashes in a really rough start for Blaber. So now he's thinking, can we still contest this? I don't think you can. You're still dealing with a Nautilus hook. Zoe is moving a little bit, but won't really be able to help. Oh my goodness. This is not Blaber's fault. Oh, wow. So this is Sven's fault for getting hit by that hook and then pathing so dangerously back through the jungle, trying to get to the wave a little bit quicker and getting flashed on. Now he has to TP back to the wave. And Blaber's in a really tough spot. So he starts without his blue buff and without his flash. And flash is pretty important to an early Gragas, because you want to be able to like flash E someone. Get that early gank off. Now that tool is gone. Not to mention you obviously have the first blood gold on the other side. And who got the kill here? Graves, I assume. Yeah, Santorin gets first blood gold. Yeah. I mean, if you're in range for the Nautilus hook to hit you, it's not like super easy to sidestep, but you didn't need to be in range for it to hit you there. Like, FlyQuest just hit them with a timing and with like Ezreal, Yuumi aren't going to be able to do anything level 1. So Blaber's making the best of it. He counter-steals blue and Gromp. He's actually ahead in tempo now on his crab first. Yeah, I think what should have happened in the level 1 there is Cloud9 see FlyQuest invading and go, oh no, they've got Senna Nautilus and then like Graves, who can do a lot of damage right now. And we got nothing. We just go and we trade. You know, and Blaber does what he's doing right now. He's trading parts of the map. He's ganking the top lane. If he had the flash here, maybe this is a kill. I don't think it's a kill now. It probably might not be anyways if Solo used his wave properly as he did. Now they got to make sure to crash this so there's no freeze potential. The wave's too big to freeze. He would eat most of his health bar and damage trying to hold it. So now Blaber just got Licorice, a good reset, and Solo had to flash. So that's Blaber's making the best of this one. But Graves is like very fed early. Blaber earned that little bit of tempo that he used to make that gank, but he did obviously lose tempo for that gank, which gave also the info that he wasn't coming back to his clear spot side, so Santorin and Ignar get to do this. I think Ezreal Yuumi should have been able to get a little more, like they should have been able to contest the wave a little easier and not be pushed into their tower like this. If it wasn't for the way the level 1 went, I think. They might have gotten pushed in anyways. But I don't think so. But now they obviously, you know, they are getting pushed in. That gives FlyQuest that big old jungle invade and a free very early dragon. Like this game is getting ready to snowball away from Cloud9 quite quickly here. And you do have good scaling in your gangplank. And like Zoe and Ezreal can do a lot of poke later. But you're up against Azir and Senna, who scale really well. You're up against frontline, and you don't have any frontline. And they've got Nautilus engage. Shen and Azir can make some plays. It's going to be so hard for Cloud9 to deal with this, I think, later on. Unless they get like really free objective setups. Alright. So Santorin can just like keep power clearing. And Blaber wants to make plays, I think. He wants to make plays to gain prio for his laners in mid and bot, probably. He wants to make plays to punish Santorin if he invades too much, but like PoE is able to back up Santorin here a little bit. More importantly, Ignar is able to back up Santorin there. So even if they had known for sure that Santorin was in there, which I think they probably had a pretty good idea, you weren't able to safely make a play on him. So now C9 is trying to set out to play through top. Niski is working with Blaber here for this invade. They have pace on the mid wave. Okay, let's slow this down. So I like what they're going for here. So Niski right here has mid shoving in. Blaber's running out from base. They're saying we're gonna invade this blue. So Licorice, you've got to get that top wave shoved as fast as possible so you can join in this 3-man blue invade. Sven almost has TP up, but he's not going to want to use it for this. You'd be giving up too much. So Licorice is still trying to clear this wave. Here he's starting to move to join. Solo's like, yep, they're here. PoE is having to answer this wave mid. So now it's a 2-man defense. They landed the sleep on Solo and the barrel, but the Senna ult keeps it up a little bit. PoE flashes on Licorice. Licorice has to flash out. Santorin goes in with the Shen ult. Okay, so this goes very wrong for Cloud9, but I liked the play overall. Okay, Ignar. Does Ignar make a difference in this? So you see the bot prio here. The bot prio that FlyQuest have. Wild Turtle's recalling, which actually gives him an angle to some extent for a good Senna ult here, right here. He wouldn't have had this angle otherwise, and he would have had to choose between shielding and damage. There just wasn't quite enough damage to get this kill. Maybe with the Ignite? Yeah, it really feels like C9 were making a good macro call. They were working as a team on that invade, but they just didn't quite have the damage to finish the target. And it's hard to say why. So to some extent, coming in here, and they go on the Graves, don't they? So Santorin is up a level, and I don't think he's got any tankiness. No, this is just damage and cooldown reduction. But he's up a level. That gives him a little more health. So most of their damage goes on to Shen, actually. Yeah. They try to finish the Shen and can't. I think if they had been able to... No, they just landed a bubble on him. They just thought they had enough damage and they didn't. And then that Senna ult did so much. And Santorin's Graves ult too. No, I don't fault Cloud9 for that play, because you kind of feel like it should have worked. But Ignar does make it in and harasses Blaber. Is he going to kill him? He can't kill him. Ignar, what are you doing? Bloodthirsty. But he did buy a little extra time there. I think Solo just had a pretty good read on his own tankiness. I don't know if there was some missed damage in there somewhere that maybe should have... maybe we can spot it. Did Niski miss a Q? Did Blaber miss a Q? So here comes the Gragas ult. Yeah, I think that was a nice quick flash out from Solo, so Blaber couldn't get a Q on him. And body slam? Yeah, no, he missed his body slam on Solo. That might have been a kill if he connected that. That's a good point. And if he lands this body slam here, and why does he miss this? Oh, he just got straight up juked. That's kind of ugly. Then they would have been able to land that. They probably would have been able to land that bubble, and Solo doesn't get as much distance at least. Licorice's ult goes straight onto the blue buff area. No, these are good callouts. So yeah, there was enough damage here from Cloud9 if they had actually landed stuff. So here comes the ult right here. I guess he thought Solo was going to back up. If he puts it in this area, Solo can probably hover in that part there. I think there should have been enough damage for Cloud9 to get a kill there. And they had set up to play properly. Yeah, and then the Fly just outplayed them. Blaber shouldn't have missed that body slam. That's the most obvious one to me. That's a good point that the Gragas ult pushed the Shen out of the GP ult, but I think he could have walked out of it anyways and still lived. There were some optimizations. So now the state that we're in is pretty bad for Cloud9. This gold gap is starting to look pretty intimidating. I mean, it's 1K, which is kind of a big deal at this point. It's also a dragon and now a second dragon. And the Graves is just a little more fed. And dragon stacking is pretty problematic for C9 because they want to be the ones on the objective first. When they've got this kind of poke and they got the gangplank, when they got the Yuumi, it's pretty hard. Like, Gragas has to do a lot of very hard work if they're approaching the objective second. But they can't face check anything. They can't move into vision. Like, Zoe can check a little bit of stuff. So he's trading side towers, but FlyQuest have the Herald from that earlier sequence, so obviously FlyQuest win this trade. So Licorice, even with his ult, can't keep the second tower up. And are they going to finish this tower? Blaber's like, I really want to die this. So they get a kill, but they don't get the tower. Wow. Yeah, this is getting pretty rough for Cloud9. And a lot of this stuff is knock-on effects from the level 1 still. But not all of it. Like, this game would be much more even if that Cloud9 invade on the blue had worked out better. But I'm sure, like even after Cloud9 won game 2, I was saying that I didn't feel, if I was Cloud9, I felt mentally kind of bad about the way this series is going so far. I feel like we're getting outplayed. I feel like they kind of handed us game 2 and we didn't really earn it. So, like, even though you're 1-1 in the series and this game is not that far gone yet, it's starting to get there and you feel pretty bad. Like, you kind of feel like you've lost a game and a half at this point. So I think it's pretty easy to tilt in this environment. Like, they're going to need somebody salvaging the team's morale pretty hard right now. Oh, that was nice. Okay. So what's the map setup here? Back it up a little more. Niski has, okay, mid-wave is even for both. But they saw PoE go over here and clear that ward. So they know even if he's not resetting, it's going to take a long time to match. So he's heading bot. Blaber is already shadowing bot where there's a cannon wave starting to crash. E flash. Predictive Gragas ult on the solo flash. That was a really nice mechanical play. Blaber looking to redeem himself a little bit from not having the best series so far. Blaber's mechanics are still on point. It's some of his macro and like connections with his team that haven't been so good this series. Now, you don't really want that gold to be going all on the Gragas. I think you'd rather have it on the Gangplank or the Ezreal. But, of course, the Ezreal has nothing to do with that play. Not a big deal, though. Gragas having a lot of burst damage can be helpful. And it gets him into his like stopwatch sooner and his Zhonya sooner and all that kind of stuff. Now, Dragon's coming up. Ezreal is still only recalling, but he has TP. Ooh, a Honda performance play. Look at that performance play. I wonder if this guy drives a Honda. So C9 are set up first on an objective because of that kill, basically. And this is what they want. So here's landing some poke, but Ignar Ignar, he has his stone plate already. Huh. I guess we are farther into the game than I realized. He's just going to walk right on him. And C9 wanted to land a lot more poke before the fight happened. Oh, but they get Santorin. Okay, what's Santorin doing here? Santorin is like almost 30 CS up. He's 1-0-1. He's up a level. He goes forward. He's trying to follow up the engage, and he just gets popped. He's not tanky at all. What happened with the Shen ult here? It goes on Ignar. Yeah, I mean, I can't fault the Shen ult for going on the Ignar because he's engaging, and it helped him. It helped him go in and start that engage, right? And then Solo lands a double taunt here. So, like, I don't know, he's doing fine. But you did not expect this to start out with Santorin getting blown up that hard. So they're going to take down Solo here. Suddenly things are starting to look... Okay. That was a flash from Wild Turtle to get out of that Gragas ult, right? Yeah. Now C9 are a little low, and they have to worry about the Azir ult. So they have to be really sure that they've got the setup right before they actually go on this dragon. But here they go. I need to remind, or like look a little closer at exactly why. I think Santorin takes a big Zoe Q at the start. So he's like, he wants to be walking up behind Ignar. So he's a little chunked right here. He took a pretty big Zoe Q there. And then Ezreal ult. Ezreal ult into Ezreal Q with the Gangplank ult on top of him too. So like everything got unloaded on him. I think Santorin went in just a little too early before before the enemy carries had been forced to pay full attention to Nautilus and Shen. And like 1 second later, once the Shen's in your back line, now the Graves should be a lot more free to walk up. But at that point, do you have the targets you want to hit? Then again, Graves can hit any target on this. I don't think he has to be picky about his targets because there's no tank to be blocking him. So, I don't, Santorin's had some good team fights. I don't think that was one of them. But it was a little hard to predict that everything is going to land on you there. There's the replay again. If FlyQuest didn't try to force the ult here, they're going to eat a bunch of poke and still be in just as bad a position. So I think they were just trying to rush into it. They were trying to rush it before the poke started stacking up. But I also think FlyQuest could have given up that dragon pretty comfortably. And they had Shen alone in the top lane too. I don't know that he could have finished the tower, maybe. But yeah, if you're going to fight that, you fight it right away like they did. And you just execute a little better and it might still work out. Like, you engage in, but maybe you don't spend the Nautilus ult. You pull out you get the Gangplank ult out, and then you back out of it. And then you go again 10 seconds later. But you also don't have to fight there at all, I think, if you're FlyQuest. Because you're still scaling up, right? Like, the team fights are going to get better for you, and you are presumably going to get better setups. Because that was the perfect setup for Cloud9, that they were there first, they had everybody, they had their poke and their Gangplank in place. And you just don't let them get that setup next time. So C9 are playing on 2 lanes right now because they don't have to worry about the Shen in bot lane. Their outer's already gone. They get the mid. This is a win for Cloud9, getting the mid outer and losing your top outer. You'll take that for sure. So 3 minutes until the next dragon. And I think both teams are pretty much waiting it out until then. I think it's more important for Cloud9 to get the right setup for this next dragon. I think FlyQuest can either be there first or be there second and feel okay about it. Like, you always prefer to be there first. But if you're not, you've got your engage. And you've got the Shen that you can approach it as 4 and have Shen in the sideline, all that kind of stuff, the classic. So I think it's more important for Cloud9 to get their favorable setup. So here, how much time? So 1:45 on Dragon still, so plenty of time that FlyQuest... Okay, so this is a play attempt from Cloud9. Pretty speculative. Ignar ults the Gragas, wants to hook him as a follow-up, but he thinks better of it. This is fine. Everybody's going to have their stuff back for the dragon. But Blaber goes in, ult doesn't land. Now it's starting to get into the range where he might not have his ult back in time. King Elendil, I love your name, first of all, and thank you for the subscription. I'm a big Lord of the Rings guy. So now it's a minute. You've got Ezra recalling on his own, quite delayed. Oh yeah, Blaber did flash there. Yeah, you didn't want to lose that. Niski's getting picked off here. So, like, this is a tough map state for Cloud9. So let's look at the resets here first of all. Sven wants to get this last hit off. And now he should be backing off to reset. He's got to get to a safe point to do it. Where is he going right now? He's going to a bush to reset. He's about 8-9 seconds behind Blaber and Vulcan. So that's not great, but it's not horrible. It's enough time that they can still sync back up before it's time to approach. Mid lane is neutral wave. Top is shoving a little bit for Cloud9. Niski needs to get this bot lane. He wants to get this bot lane shoved so that they can approach the, gives them more options to approach the Dragon Pit. But he doesn't have the backup yet. Power of Evil Santorin. Read this pretty nicely and go on him. I think they're going to get him here even with the Licorice TP, or the Sven TP rather. Yeah, and now this dragon should just be FlyQuest. Although, okay. So before Niski goes down here, and you're feeling pretty safe on this wave if you're Niski, honestly. Like, you've got a bunch of vision. Obviously, they snuck past it, and it wasn't that hard to sneak past it, but they had to go over this wall here, I assume. Or did they see... No, they should have... Okay, so that's the crab. I think... Yeah, they couldn't see it here. So they snuck past the vision, but if you're not thinking really hard about it, that could catch you off guard that they snuck past that vision. And right there, he's probably going to check with a ward, and he just gets caught. But he lands a bubble here before dying. So he R's back, lands the bubble. Somebody walks on it. So he zones a little bit with it. Santorin walks on it and dies. Oops. Let's see how this ends up. Blaber goes real aggro. Cloud9 could win this. And Ezreal loves to clean up a bunch of low health targets. So, ultimately, like, outcome aside, I think Niski did push that a little too soon without waiting for help. I think there was enough time that he didn't have to rush it. But it worked out. The play that Santorin and Power of Evil go for here, so they've got solo with Shen ult in the top lane, and the wave is not in a horrible spot where you're worried about him leaving it. You don't have Ignar close enough to help yet. Senna has ult, but like won't be able to actually help with her own body. And as FlyQuest, you're up against 2 TPs here. So this is actually like... I think that's the other reason Niski probably feels kind of safe there, is they'd have to have Like, they'd have to kill you really easy because your team can collapse and help you with the TPs. If he's like big-brained enough to look at this and go, yeah, they could come and kill me, but my team's gonna win the overall fight afterwards. Like, then credit to him. I don't give him that much credit. But in the end, it was a play that I thought seemed smart from FlyQuest. I'm not gonna change my mind on that just because of the outcome. But the 2 TPs from Cloud9, yeah. I think FlyQuest like should have gotten a better outcome on that with a better shutout, with Santorin not walking over the bubble and dying. That they just like played it a little slower and safer on the disengage after. Like, even if they only get the stopwatch out of Niski and then back off here. Like, let's see it again. Shen ult onto PoE just to like, he's using it proactively. Or was that not a Shen ult? No, it wasn't. Sorry. I saw a shield on him, but it was something else. Now here's the Shen ult just because he wants to get into the fight, but it doesn't actually deny any damage. Yeah. Yeah, I think Solo did panic a little on that. He didn't optimize what to do with his ult. And I think maybe PoE and Santorin should have backed off the play a little bit after the initial, like after they were getting stalled on. But it's all retrospect. I thought the idea was pretty decent from FlyQuest, and I thought Niski should have taken his time instead of trying to rush that wave out so much. I think he had enough time. Regardless, we're at 2 dragons now. 2 dragons each, that is. C9 have a decent gold lead, not massive. And we're looking for the next dragon again is what both teams are playing for, I think. So I think like C9 should be trying to carefully push up their vision line here. So Niski is shadowing Licorice. So obviously they suspect that there's going to be another play attempt onto him, but he's not there yet. He flashes, gets out of the Senna ult. Wow. I'm impressed that Licorice was able to handle that. PoE cleanses the bubble, dodges the Q, but can't live through this. So that was a really good read by Niski and Licorice on what they're going to try to do to him. And Licorice outplayed the 2v1 at the start. Bought a ton of time. Like, he had to burn a lot for it, but... Is this enough for Baron? Maybe. I don't think they saw Azir walking up, but I think they suspected that there would be a play attempt. Like... Niski didn't head over there because he knew there was a play coming. He headed over there because if there was a play coming, he could help. And they didn't want to play on 3 lanes. Like, C9's comp is designed to play on 2 lanes. Gangplank on 1, the other 4 somewhere else. Usually you're going to have like a 4-man mid and then Gangplank on one of the sides. And then somebody backs off to catch the other side. So this was like a precautionary rotation to back it up. And also they can't approach this wave that safely. So there's some talk about the Gangplank item build. He goes for the Leandra's Torment, which was it was kind of fashionable at the time from what I remember for the GP ult. I'm not huge on critiquing itemization. But, so I think obviously he's going for the ult here, and they want to blow people up with Gangplank and Gragas ults, I guess. I don't know. I think you probably do want to build the Gangplank for survivability and the solo side laning. I think you have enough other damage that you can team fight without the Andres. What happens here? So now they're again playing on 2 lanes, but they have Ezreal Yuumi in the bottom lane. And Licorice is starting to lean topside. Meanwhile, just a nice casual pick off on the Niski. Should they have avoided that? Well, and what's the dragon timer here? 30 seconds on dragon, so Cloud9 are just trying to... I think they can just forget about top laner here. They're just trying to get mid lane pushed out. Okay. That's just... I don't know. I don't think that pick should have happened, but it's pretty hard to disengage from. Like, I don't even know how much credit to give FlyQuest for that play and how much to be angry at C9. That's just like, wait, what? Caught me off guard so much. So it's a free 3rd dragon for FlyQuest as a result. Yeah, FlyQuest do have a lot of range to make those plays, but they didn't even have to spend it just about anything for it. So I don't know. I can't even like wrap my head around this. So we're coming out of a replay, so it's hard to read the overall setup for this play because I don't know exactly like were they resetting on this. So I think Cloud9 were resetting. Did they Baron during the replay? No, right here. So they're resetting off the Baron here. So they're still coming out from the Baron reset, maybe. And they are just like, it's quite close to Dragon here. I don't know why Licorice is starting to fade topside, because there's nothing, like you don't have to worry about this wave. You can let them take this tower while you take the Dragon. I'm okay with that. Rather than leaving a squishy 2-man exposed here. If you got 3, it's a little more, I mean, you probably still lose him, but I think it's just a really great read by Power of Evil to see the Zoe ult and then go at the source of it. Yeah. I don't know why Licorice was fading top lane there. And there was no way for like Blaber to disengage that or anything like that. So Licorice at least gets a top lane shove out of it, just for the tempo of the whole thing. Now they're not synced on their top and mid waves. It's not a huge deal. So they should be trying to, let's see if they do try to sync up the waves here. The next 2 maybe, but they're pretty far apart. Like they're at their natural timings, but okay. No, they've got this. Somehow I didn't see that other wave coming. Right here. Somehow I was looking away at all the times when I could see those little dots on the map behind behind Licorice. So now they've got waves hitting at basically the same time, top and mid. It looks like Blaber's trying to flank. What? I don't know what this is all about. They should be hitting both towers at once, so that if they make a play on Licorice, you take the inhib. And that's what they are going for now, but like the Gragas was in a bit of a weird spot for it. Maybe he was trying to catch somebody else trying to flank, but there's nobody on the other team who would try to flank. And now you're just getting engaged on 5v4 and losing. What are the odds of that? So no inhib. Gave up 2 kills of gold. Yeah. This has not been the best played series overall, but there have been good moments. But a lot more bad ones. So Cloud9 are setting up nothing because it's a minute and a half until any objective. But they're at least setting up zone control and trying to get a catch, I guess. And just trying to avoid getting picked off again themselves. GFA may have had a bounty on him. I don't know I don't think that should change your decision making in the moment though. I think Cloud9 needed to have a lot more firm pressure on the mid lane tower and not be like trying to hide a flank or whatever they were doing with Vulcan and Blaber. Playing it out. 30 seconds on Baron. It's far enough apart that... No, it's not very far apart. It's 20 seconds. You might be able to take one and contest the other. I think so. I think it's enough time. I guess Azir kills Baron quite quickly. But overall, I don't know that the comps do. Alright, you're face checking. And dying. What? There have been a lot of random individual mistakes from Niski, more from Sven. Licorice has had, I think, a little bit. So, I mean, there's a little bit of vision from Cloud9 here. They have a control ward there. But they don't see... Okay, so they should see Solo here. Right? Wouldn't that ward see him? Am I wrong? I'm pretty sure that ward should see that. No pings. Maybe I didn't see it. But even so, I mean, it's still a face check. And that just gives up Mountain Soul. And probably the entire game. Okay, so yeah, enough of a gap. So you give up Mountain Soul. You're going to give up Baron here. This thing's... I mean, I've been saying it a couple different times that these games should have been over, or like basically over, and then it hasn't been because the teams are enjoying handing each other mistakes. So I'll try not to be too premature on this one. Yeah. So Sven definitely, he didn't like int into that brush, but it's a face check one way or another. Even if the Shen has to like taunt over the wall into that like into that brush to get you, or the Nautilus like flashes onto you or whatever, like it's a face check one way or another, even without seeing. So now Blaber says, no, we can go on this. Oh, what was that little move block there? So I think Blaber's ult here obviously was supposed to knock Power People in. It wouldn't have. It should have knocked him a little bit this way, but it kind of like he had his Azir happening. It was a little funny. And the follow-up wasn't in place, right? Like the Zoe had just gotten pushed back. Where's the Yuumi right now? The Yuumi's on Sven. And Ignar counter engages it beautifully. It's fine that he dies for that. It is tough with an Ezreal Yuumi. just sustains up and keeps poking you, so. So the mid tower should go down. Like, it's a little surprising they haven't finished it yet. Okay, so apparently that that PoE was a QSS on the stun portion of the Gragas E. That's a good call out. I don't know that they would have killed the Azir anyways, because they needed Niski's damage, I think. Okay, they burn Yuumi out there, but that's fine. It'll be back up for the next thing. So everybody's fighting for mid wave. It's 45 seconds on Dragon. This time C9 are 5 men on the mid wave. They've already got bot shoved out. Niski goes in hard looking for that poke. Eats a bunch back. Redemption out. The Nautilus ult went in and they backed out of that pretty well. So that was Gragas ult on the Nautilus, right? And Niski finishes him. Yep. Blaber also followed it up with an E to ensure it. But that's a lot spent. So that's everybody's ult. And Yuumi ult will be back soon. But they just got the support. They got Santorin's flash. They got Wild Turtle sums. Actually, that's pretty good. So now they're chasing because Dragon's not up yet. And they want to have some death timers around for it. Sven, Yuumi, like, they flash in on Wild Turtle. Wait, what? Oh, this is like... I saw this VOD is really long. Okay, let's see here. The game is a little hung, and now it comes back. Anyways, they flash in on the Senna. They die. Sven dies. But at least they got PoE. Now, do they get Elder off this? Blaber's really low. And Sven is dead. It's risky. 30 seconds on Sven before he can TP out. So, like, I think the situation is kind of okay for C9. But they go all in on the Solo's... they go all in on Solo's Shen. They don't finish him. It's the difference between having a tank and not having a tank. So they lost Licorice. I wonder what, how this would have played out if they just taken the kill on Ignar and then, like, gone back and set up a nice clean Elder control. Like, they had like 30 seconds on it still, but their comp is good at just being there first. They didn't need to, like, get another kill to ensure that control. They just needed to be there and have control. And yeah, there's the Mountain Soul you're going against, but... So now you lose Elder. Yeah, my issues with Sven thinking we need to chase this down and, like, confirm another kill to make sure we get the Elder 100%. Because I don't think your comp does that very well. I think their comp can turn things on you very well. They've got the Senna and the Nautilus. The Nautilus is dead, but they got the Senna CC. They got Shen. Graves can land a smoke bomb on you and turn things around. And you've got some decent chase, but compositionally, I don't think you needed to chase there. So this thing should be just about over, I guess. So unfortunately, this has been just a very bad game from Sven. But this was like the first game of the series where I think Blaber actually did more than Santorin, especially because he got hurt by that level 1, but he reacted quite well to it, and he did good things for Licorice. I think his team fighting was decent. I'd say like kind of above average. But Sven and a little bit of Niski kind of inted a bit. All right, this thing's not over yet. Come on, guys. Three inhibs. Totally winnable. Don't worry, Cloud9's comp likes to be engaged on. So you just set up at your Nexus. Also, it looks like Blaber almost has Rabadons. And super minions coming in your base just means you have more gold to farm. So you can get his Rabadons. This is expert NA analysis right here. We'll just see this in all the Technicolor drama. Here we go. Blaber knocks out, the Santorin spell shield gets taken out by, what does it get taken out by? Smite. He smites the spell shield, body slams, and dies. Okay. Let's go on to game 4. Finish it. Kill the Nexus, please. I like to see the end. There we go. Okay. So C9, gotta be tilted. If you're Sven, you're tilted because you threw a few times. If you're everybody else, you're tilted because Sven threw a couple times or a few times. Aside from that, I thought Blaber was decent. I think the Gragas was a bit of a weird pick at the time. I think it could have worked if they had not been set behind right from the start and been having to play with not the best setups. But that's how it went. So when we jump to game 4 and we finish things off, I would say Santorin was better in games 1 and 2, and Blaber was better in game 3, but Santorin's better games have been by a wider margin. We go into game 4. Here we are. Draft. Hey, look, Ezreal and Yuumi and Gangplank. And it's fine. I don't have big issues with Cloud9 running it back, aside from the idea that, you have been comfortable running these, but they've also been getting comfortable running against this comp. So it's a best of 5. You got 5 games. Try some different things. You got to think they prepared more than one style of comp. But I don't feel like the comp has been losing them the games. It's not like that comp didn't work, therefore we need to try something else. No, it's been player problems, not comp problems. Mostly. You had the Shen. The Senna was I think pretty good that game and did a lot of good things. FlyQuest go back to the Volibear, because I think Santorin's Graves was not a big difference maker, even after getting that first blood, level 1. PoE was more of a difference maker. Ignar was quite good again. Ignar, to me, has been the player of the series so far. Now you've got Rakan, you've got more engage here. Yeah, I think you could have gone for the Nautilus again, but they have Volibear tanking, so maybe they just didn't feel they needed as much tankiness. Yeah, also the Graves was banned. But you go just about a full run back from Cloud9, except you go to the Lee Sin again because they didn't ban it this time instead of the Gragas. I don't know. The Gragas Volibear is maybe not what you wanted. And the Malzahar. So there's not a whole lot of damage on the FlyQuest side. But Malzahar into Zoe is kind of classic, I think. That's curious. Galio might work for C9 if they had chosen to do that. But yeah, Galio Lee Sin together kind of works. I think Galio is more like you want to make plays into the side lanes for me, and I don't think you have side lanes to make plays into here. I think you want something. I think the Zoe makes more sense because it's paired with the Israel for the zone control and poke at objectives. You're not trying to play through the side lanes. You're trying to push out the map, control an objective, and make them come to you. I don't think that's... Galio can do that, but it's not... He's not better at it than Zoe is. So if you're Santorin, again, just like every game this series, you want to path top to bot, help your bot lane get control and get ahead. Maybe you want to try to play through... Like, I think Malzahar's going to have a little trouble keeping up wave clear with Zoe early on. Maybe you want to try to just, like, cover PoE a little bit. And then eventually unlock him for the first dragon fight. Again, if you're Blaber, you want to try to play up for the Galio, or for the Gangplank. Keep him comfortable. So I think, just like every game on this series, I mean, first of all, Cloud9, defend the level 1. Don't get level 1 done. You're not as worried about it this game. Like, Rakan can do some creative level 1 things, but it's not Nautilus Hook. It's not Thrash Hook. So. I think Ezreal Yuumi should be able to have control of the bot lane. And Gangplank can have prio early. I think there's a chance that Cloud9 would have 3 winning lanes here. But they're not like dominantly winning lanes. And I'm not sure. Like, Ezreal Yuumi feels like a lane that should do good stuff 2v2, but I'm not really sure on that. And it doesn't seem like it's been going that serious, so it might just be wrong. And as it looks this time, and potentially partly because Sven and Vulcan know that Blaber's pathing bot to top, they're not trying to get control of the wave too hard because they don't want to leave themselves vulnerable for another Santorin level 3 gank like they have had before. So this time Santorin did red and then skipped Raptors down full clearing bot, and it looks like he's going to want to go and contest top scuttle because now he's going to finish wolves, go to Raptors. But is anybody going to be able to help him contest top scuttle? Looks like his wolves may have released there. Yeah, his big wolf released. Ouch. Blaber's doing a lot more standard. And I don't think the Malzahar is going to be able to push enough to help, especially with the redemption pull for Zoe. So I don't know why Santorin... Is he going to go back to the bot? Crab? Okay. So that's just a little bit of a... I wonder if he was worried about like a Zoe Lee Sin Raptor contest if he did Raptors as a second camp. That I don't think so. He might have been trying to invade or like dodge some kind of opponent pressure or invade. But I don't know, I'm not super worried about that if I'm him, but it might happen. Licorice has gone back for his cull already and walked back to lane. And he's getting frozen on a little. Boy, this is a weird top lane state. So Licorice could have TP'd back to lane here and not had this. It's not a freeze. And he's joining up on the wave. Okay. So he might not even lose the CS there. He might lose 1. It's fine. It's actually a slow push into him with Lee Sin on that side. So there's absolutely no like dive potential or anything onto him. So it's actually really good. This is why I'm not a challenger top laner. Among a couple other reasons. But the weird part of that is Blaber is invading Krugs. And if Shen backed off here and Volibear had gone straight to Krugs, they probably could have picked Blaber off at Krugs, or at least made him flash. So that's a weird thing about, like, Licorice did something isolated 1v1 that was really good for him. Combo with the Lee Sin, it's dangerous, but now it looks like it might turn into first blood on the gank. You can make him flash. Yeah, missed the Q, but he wouldn't have gotten the kill anyways. So, like, that whole sequence worked out really well for C9, but there was actually a vulnerability during that Krug invade portion. So, got to avoid doing just results-based analysis and say it was a universally great play, because it could have gone bad. But I think the odds were in their favor there. Obviously, it did work out. Now, Sven just flashed. Blaber is running out from base, but he's pretty far away still. Niski is ahead of PoE, and there's no ults, and so Malzahar is kind of useless right now in a team fight, aside from, like, his silence. So Sven's like, no, we got this. This is all us. But whereas, like, Niski doesn't have a bubble line or anything, he paths pretty dangerously. Can they chase this down? Blaber thinks so. So Sven flashed, Niski had to flash and heal, Vulcan had to exhaust, and they get 4 sums out on the other side. That's okay. But yeah, I don't think there was a need for C9 to go so hard on that. So what's the game state here? So Blaber's pretty far ahead because of the, I think a lot of that is to do with Santorin's kind of wishy-washy pathing, and then getting pushed out of his invade there. Now Blaber can clear up to top side. Maybe there's a wave crash coming from Licorice that he can join in on. Okay. Crab is spawning, so that's why Licorice pathed through the jungle to help secure the crab. So they played for the crab. Now Licorice can actually pull this wave in while Blaber heads back. You know, I think PoE is too safe at tower for Blaber to make a play mid. So Blaber will just get ahead and farm. I wonder if there's going to be a play into bot lane after this wave or maybe next wave. Or Blaber will just go down to red buff. Santorin's just trying to play catch up. I'm not sure how I feel about the scaling here. Like, Gangplank scales well, Ezreal's Yumi's scales well. Malzahar's a bit of an odd duck. You know, he just kind of becomes an alt, I think. Like, that's my read on it. Okay, so Blaber is not going for any kind of play into bot side. They're trying to punish the Shen lack of flash. Ooh. Did he emote on that? This is what I want to know. There was some kind of graphical effect that I missed. And that was Solo waving the white flag. But, you know, it's not that easy to kill a Shen. And here's Santorin counterplaying. Oh, Shen ult on this onto Volibear. Niski headed up, but he wasn't part of that play originally. He wasn't going to be able to join it. Like, maybe if they had to kite out from the Volibear really far there, then Niski helps and punishes the Volibear on the chase. And he didn't really. I think he lost a little bit. Yeah, so I think Power of Evil's Malzahar will be able to... Yeah, maybe it's a response pick to the Lee Sin. That might be it. He goes in, you ult him, he can't finish his insec on you, or he does, but he dies anyways. And you just chain a bunch of CC. But I think you have a ton of CC anyways. I don't think you really need more CC from the mid lane to peel the Lee Sin. It's more like it's a classic Zoe response. Like, if she uses her R in, then you ult the Zoe when she ults in on you. I think that's the main thing. And then you can just, like, engage from there. So I don't think it's really about the rest of the comp or anything. and then you're just going to hope that Senna does all your late game damage mostly. So now that we're like getting up in levels a little bit, and Mouse is probably, especially once he gets a little more mana, I think he'll be able to clear mid really quick. It's just like the really early parts of the game, and we're still a little bit in that portion that Malzahar has a bit of a hard time doing anything except farming a tower. But he's handled it well so far. He hasn't been punished for it. Niski didn't get out of lane. And now we're finally getting the first dragon take. Neither team really had enough control. I think Cloud9, maybe instead of Blaber trying so hard to play through top, like a couple minutes ago when I was talking about how he could clear down and there was the chance for Niski to unlock towards bot, or maybe Blaber would go for the red buff or whatever, like that might have been a window to try to set up dragon control instead of trying to snowball through Licorice. But to be fair, the play into top almost worked too. And now, is this a solo kill? No, it's not a solo kill, but it is a kill on solo. But you get a herald for it. So like I think Blaber had the options to play both sides of the map. And now it's starting to pay off. It wasn't paying off as much before, but this is a big payoff. Now what do they do with the herald? What do you do with this herald? I don't think you can break mid with it. I think you can maybe break bot in combination with the Gangplank ult. I think it's too long to wait to try to use it for dragon control. Ignar's on a bit of a wander, but it's fine. Santorin's invading with that Ignar roam, and now PoE has prio, so he and Santorin are moving together. So, meanwhile, Blaber's playing through top lane some more. So I am not watching this specifically to review PoE or like the Santorin PoE connection, but they actually have connected fairly well. PoE has gotten out and like they've moved into the enemy jungle together more than I remembered them doing. And more effectively than I remembered them doing. And that's one thing that, that I've said I was potentially a little concerned about for TSM is PoE going to be as good at connecting with Spica as Bjergsen was? And I think Bjergsen was very good at that. And PoE, maybe he's not as good at it as Bjergsen, but he's still pretty good at it, I'd say. This was a good Shen ult. I know Solo had a lot of kind of useless Shen ults last game, but this was a good one. So they just pick off Niski mid. Coming out of base on the respawn, right? But meanwhile, the Herald goes top. You break a side lane tower. Yeah, very, very effective R pushing from PoE for sure. Expert level. You get the charge on top inner as well. And PoE is taking another plate mid. But still overall a win for C9 in that sequence in total. Because they got the first tower out of it. I think like you don't want to lose your mid tower. If you're Cloud9, you'd wish that you'd done a better job of keeping your mid tower up here. I think Niski had that one time when he leaned top in case he was needed on that like 2v2 in the top lane, and I think he lost a bunch there. That was a little awkward. There had to be another time that I'm forgetting that he lost a bunch of tower health mid. But in this C9 comp, your mid tower is pretty important. So PoE is looking for another side lane play, but this time it's not going to work out. Now he's connected with Santorin again, and they are all over the enemy jungle. They know that Sven and Vulcan are catching at the bot tower, so they're pretty safe invading there. So they're continuing to be in the enemy jungle. It's pretty far ahead of Dragon still, but they're controlling it. They're getting vision. Here comes the engage with the Gangplank ult. Bubble doesn't hit. Blaber gets R'd and dies. Ouch. So like C9 don't really have tools to make a lot of forward moving plays. It's like land a Zoe bubble. Like it's Lee Sin or it's land a Zoe bubble. You don't really want to be engaging to this. You do have Wild Turtle down here catching a wave, so you think you can get an outman play, but don't forget about Shen. I can't see the licorice on my minimap right now. There he is. So he's walking down here. He drops the Gangplank out, but that's all he's going to be able to contribute. The bubble doesn't hit. Now you say, this didn't work. Blaber, though, keeps walking forward. He gets silenced. He gets Mal's ulted. Santorin and Ignar followed up. Senna ult, all of that. And now this is it. That's the big one. Niski got a decent amount done, but without Blaber being able to go in and like really pop somebody or like help set up somebody to be popped at the start, it's hard to kind of finish this off. And Sven is coming from the bottom side. Or no, he's in the pit, isn't he? He did come from the bottom side. Whoa, come on, load. But he got caught in the pit here. Yeah, that's kind of weird positioning. Yeah, like that style of fight isn't good for C9's comp. Again, like they want to be set up first somewhere and then, you know, mess you up as you approach them. Then again, they have to worry about the Rakan ult with the Shen ult on top of it. They have to worry about Volibear just like unstoppably jumping in on them. So it is a little hard, but still, that's what you built your comp for, is to set up on an objective, not to like chase them into the river. Even though they kind of had the map set up for it with bot prio, rotating first, all that kind of stuff, you have to be very careful going in on a Malzahar. Where's the Yumi ult? Not up. It's on cooldown somehow. I guess from the last engagement. Yeah, so with Yumi ult on cooldown, you especially don't want to be trying to force something here. And there was enough time on Dragon that I think... Oh wait, it's so hard to read. This UI is bugged. There's the Yumi ult. I guess it just came up. Never trust the cooldowns on this spectator layout. It made the classic blunder. Yeah, I just don't think Cloud9 are using their comp right. And again, it's like all series long they have played this style of difficult to execute comp. And then they've made the kinds of team plays and rotations that are not bad plays or rotations, but they don't match the tools they have in the comp, I would say. So like, they're making good plays if they had the right tools for those plays. And then also, especially in the first two games, they were fighting at times they shouldn't be fighting. Actually, that's what they just did here too. But I guess generally speaking, the kinds of plays they've been making have been taking team fights that might be winnable under other circumstances, and might even be winnable with the tools they had if FlyQuest hadn't just executed as cleanly as they did. All right. So here you've got Senna in the top lane, Shen in the bot lane with no TP, but he does have ult. Hold on a second. I need to set this up a little more. So Blaber wants to... I mean, you don't really want to engage onto Malzahar. You want to disengage the Rakan, maybe? So they do engage on the Malzahar. Blaber landed a Q there too, yeah. Does he get it? Nope. Did Sven go in aggressively to deliver this Yumi ult? No, not really. But he does get silenced. and then he gets Ard, and then he gets comboed on. Yeah, Santorin and Ignar have done a good job following up Power of Evil's Mel's ult. And Blaber didn't have enough to finish off PoE on his own. In fact, other than Gangplank ult, Blaber just doesn't really have anybody who can help him finish a target in the backline. Because Niski and Sven's damage can all be blocked. And of course, Licorice is just pushing bot the whole time. Now, it wasn't the worst thing. That wasn't the worst thing for C9, because Licorice gets this tower. So you trade a tower for a kill, but do you lose top tower for it? Maybe. A bunch of it at least. No, he doesn't get this tower. And you don't lose Herald. So that's kind of okay for C9 in the end. And if he's on Dragon right now, he's not. It's 2.5 minutes, sorry. He got Scuttle Crab. That's like a neutral objective on its own. Technically is. So Santorin's team fighting has been really good this game. Blaber, I think, is doing what he can. I think they've both been... Individually, I think both Blaber and Santorin have been decent this game. Let's jump ahead a little. Come on. Give me the next dragon fight. What was that? Is he checking Herald? Guess he's checking Herald. He got the Malzahar passive down. Okay. They do really want to keep this mid tower standing if they can. Because like the mid lane group in this comp, the ability to control the mid wave so that you can approach the neutral objectives from a better angle, that's very important. So are we going to get a fight here? Wild Turtle's a ways away. PoE gets mid prio. You know, if you're FlyQuest, you might call it a win if you get to finish this mid tower and lose the Herald. You might. Especially with a minute left on Dragon, and it probably helps you set up pretty nicely for the next Dragon. But they haven't gotten the mid tower. Niski's kept it up. They get it down. 30 seconds to Dragon. You know, the only downside of FlyQuest's setup here is that Solo is catching away pretty close to his tower, but he's got plenty of time to get this one cleared, and now it's fine. He can continue walking to the wave because he's going to join with ult anyways. If this takes too long to materialize, then he gets pressure on the tower for free, but C9 are just giving this one up, it looks like. Maybe not. Yeah, they are. Ezreal's TPing top on his own. And Vulcan is flying over there trying to catch up. So a free third dragon for FlyQuest for... Did Cloud9 need to give this up? I guess, like, no. Why are they giving this up? I mean, just because like they don't have their they don't have first move to control it. That's the main thing, I think. And they're not good at approaching second. So here they've got a whole ton of vision topside from just getting this Herald. So that's the thing to watch out here. Now they have a whole minute that they could have, like, Ezreal, Yuumi, Lee Sin resetting here. Zoe's like, I can't keep this tower up. There's nobody to help me. But if they all reset 10 seconds ago and then come running out through their own jungle, through a little bit of vision down here maybe, or just approach with the wave, like, I think you had enough time that you would have been mid again by now. You go to the wave, you use Herald and force them to respond to it. I think you can get an angle to approach. But they just don't even try. Even though they have Herald. Like, it's not a great position for them to be in because they don't have mid prio naturally. And the other team is like set up on the dragon already. But they would have had a good 30 seconds to work with, plus pressure from the Herald. That at the very least, you should be able to take the mid tower while losing the dragon. And it's not the fourth dragon, right? It's only the third dragon. It is still very important, but I just don't know what they're doing. Why they didn't reset and deploy out to contest the dragon there. And then if you do even find a straggler, you can maybe engage with a Gangplank ult or a Zoe bubble or whatever. Like, you had your tools up. You feel it out, right? And if the option's not there, you just take the mid tower. It just like, I was watching that out and like, oh, if FlyQuest got the dragon, wait, why was nothing else happening on the map at the time? So like Cloud9 have had individual mistakes that have thrown stuff away this series. Most notably Sven, also some from Niski. And then some like mechanical, missed opportunities basically in team fights. But the real issues are things like that where I'd say where they just like, they aren't doing something they could be doing, and they're drafting team comps that are hard to play, and then they're not, quite playing them well enough. But all of these things are like, I don't think Cloud9 was horrible here. This was so disappointing from a team that had been playing at such a high level in NA for most of the year. To then see this kind of stuff that is not like they fundamentally don't understand. It's just for kind of inexplicable mistakes at the team level and the individual level. I also don't think overall that Niski was super bad this series. Like, he had a couple of obvious mistakes. PoE got out of lane against him quite a bit. But, Niski matched most of his bad plays with some good plays. I think he suffered a lot from the team stuff not being in sync. And, to whatever extent he was responsible for some of that. We'll just assign equal blame to all of them because we don't know. But he, like, those team fight shutdowns he had from Ignar, you don't really blame him for that. He did the best play he could, and it got denied. Maybe you can like work around that and outplay it a little bit. And I don't want to be too much of a Niski apologist, but I don't think he was like failing this series or getting mid-gapped or anything like that. Power Vivo was better, but Power Vivo also had a much better, had much better team play around him. If you take away the level ones in this series, I'm very curious how it would have played out. Especially if Cloud9 had won a convincing game with this comp, would they have maybe tried to move on to another comp? That also would have been the thing that could have changed this game a lot, or this series a lot. Okay, so we're just going to try to roll this one out a little longer. I assume from here FlyQuest is just kind of waiting out until the next dragon. They have no reason to try to force anything else. Minute on dragon here, so Cloud9 are so far in a better spot for it. I think pretty quick here they should be bringing Licorice down so they don't have to wait for his TP timer. Here he comes. Yeah, you move into the jungle as a group, face check a little bit, get some vision in. Come back to answer. You're a little early answering mid-wave this time. I think you could have gotten another ward in, but very early on the mid-wave. Licorice is here now. That Ezreal ult doesn't help you pretty much at all. That wasn't good. Niski's trying to land poke, lands a bubble. I don't think you have to go. Ignar goes in. Okay, this is good. If you're Cloud9, this is good. If you're FlyQuest, you just want to make sure you don't get poked down too hard. I think you could have solo in the top lane here. Backed up a little more. No, he didn't quite have time to get to tower here. But I think if you're solo, you're right-clicking yourself down the lane while watching for the right spot to ult here. I don't know why you're walking through the jungle. I don't think it does anything if you get here without having to ult to get here. Big deal. Like I'd rather if nothing happens until the whole time that I've walked to tower, I'd rather finish the tower rather than having walked to the fight and now be standing in the fight. I don't know. So there was the bubble. Santorin starts to peel Blaber because they don't want to see the follow-up. Ignar goes in, but Blaber is able to just back out. The Yuumi ult gets kind of wasted into Ingar's stopwatch. Solo Shen ults Power of Evil. Ooh, there was a barrel on him, and then the Gangplank ult. But that Shen ult was not necessary. He was out already. Okay, so here, Hioe, Mal's ult's Niski, I think. So he goes in with the R, counter R's him. Did he QSS it? Yeah, he QSS's it. But C9 have zone control. They still have Lee Sin ult. And they got Shen and Mal's ults out and Rakan. So C9 should feel pretty good about this. Now just land your poke. Okay, Niski gets caught a little bit up coming out of an R. Has to flash out. Right around here. He's worried about solo taunting him, so he flashes out. PoE TP's back out with full health again. Keep landing your poke, guys. Set up your barrels, land your poke. Now, Santorin is just really tanky, and Solo's pretty tanky too. So their poke is just not really sticking. Now it's starting to a little. Okay. Solo goes on the blast cone and goes on Niski. Yeah, the poke like isn't landing as much as you'd hope, probably. Niski gets out of that with a spellbook cleanse. All right, let's watch Blaber. Q on Wild Turtle, goes in on it. He ults PoE, but the follow-up just isn't quite there. They get Rakan, but they lose Lee Sin. Yeah, and once this turns into like a full-out brawl team fight, I think the Ezreal should be pretty happy with that. But other parts of Fly's comp are pretty happy with it too. This is still okay for C9. The problem is they lost Blaber, actually, so the smite isn't there. So they do need to win this fight more and not just let the dragon go down to Malzahar. Wow, Malzahar can just like passively let the dragon go down from his minions. That kind of damage output doesn't happen if I play Malzahar, let me tell you that much. Couldn't tell you why. Malzahar is back up again, so he kills Niski. Santorin flashes to finish it, and now that's it. Licorice, oh wait. No, he gets the kill. They get Infernal Soul. Solo chases down the Yuumi. Can you get him? Taunt. Get him. No. Doesn't matter. So a big mess, but FlyQuest in the end get the Infernal Soul. So Santorin, I think, did his part in that team fight. I think he blocked a lot of poke. Wait, another one? It's like there are whole long periods where no action happens, and then suddenly all kinds of action that I don't think needs to be happening. Just don't have a good feel for the paces. I think Licorice has done quite a bit this game. Obviously, his scoreline is great. And he's moved at the right times, I think. Yeah, I don't really... Yeah, Senna's heals and all that are really good for this too. And especially like this late in the game, her range is getting fairly long. And her ability to like back up and throw a Q out there and reposition people and all that. It's pretty good stuff. I don't really think there's much more Blaber could have done in that fight. I think Santorin did what a Volibear at this stage of the game does. Just eat a bunch of damage, stun somebody when you can. He flashed in to finish a kill them to secure that. So C9 are kind of getting desperate. They want to see if they can, you know, force some kind of a trap at Baron, I'm guessing. But it's so hard for them to secure mid-prio. So again, they have to group up entirely mid because you can't just have anybody extend at all against a Malzahar ult. Now they're getting all scattered. Sven checks Baron with Ezreal ult. Here's PoE coming on the flank. Blaber's like, I'm going to get you. Here comes the Gangplank ult. Goes in on him. Wow. I'm surprised Blaber and Niski were able to kill PoE there. Okay, so Santorin, or Ignar, I guess, rather, wasn't able to block the Q. I thought that was Santorin with PoE for some reason. No, Santorin's over in mid lane. He goes on Sven. Ults on him. Solo gets in and delivered and taunts. So it's a trade, but Blaber also gets Ignar. This is a big fight from Blaber, actually. And Licorice. And I thought that setup was better for FlyQuest, honestly. But I was forgetting a little bit how good Lee Sin is at like little isolated 2v2s. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to be that consequential because I don't believe there's Baron potential off of this, or even tower potential. So it's just some kill gold traded. No big deal. There's a little bit of Baron control, like some vision clearing here. But it's a minute 15 until Elder, so Baron isn't even... Like, spending that vision on Baron is arguably a bad move for C9. When they should have been prioritizing Elder, I would say. Because, like, if you do a trade here and you're C9, and you end up getting Baron, and they get Elder, then, great, you can push your waves out a lot, but if you're pushing more than one wave at a time, they're just going to blow you up somewhere. You're not going to be able to have enough vision to protect everything, probably. All right. So now C9 do not have their first setup. Yeah, I think, well, let's look at that again. So after this fight, after this like skirmishy little fight here, right around here, there, we'll go there. So Blaber has gone in, we'll go a little bit more. C9 have won this 2-1. They get a big mid push. Blaber goes to steal Raptors. Does he put that control word there just now? Yeah, it's not there. He's going to put it there. Yeah, control wards that to keep himself safe on the Raptors. Right here, C9 should be spamming vision around. They should either be resetting, like shove this mid wave and then reset and then come out and set up vision and be ready for the Elder. Or, like, this is something I'm always a little curious about. Do you put your vision, then reset, and then come back out to your vision? I don't think so. But sometimes you might need to do that, at least to some extent. They do have 2 blue trinkets, but use the blue trinket to check Baron while you set up on Elder. I think Elder is the more important objective here. Because you're probably going to then, once you have Elder as Cloud9, then you shove up one lane as 5 and they can't do anything to you. You've got Elder and you've got a good comp for a death ball. Unless, like, as long as a Rakan doesn't get a great engage on you. And even then, like, FlyQuest are more about, you know, landing the Mal's ult and the Recon ults on somebody and blowing up a single target at once. So I don't like how Cloud9 played out the end of that fight at all. And now they've given up control of the Elder. And they've got a bunch of control over Baron, which they don't really want anyways. I mean, they'll take it for free, of course, but... So here we are. Shen ult is up in like 5 seconds, looks like. But he's got TP anyways. Now C9 have to fight for mid wave, and they have to lean topside where their vision is. Now they have to take a very, very safe path through their own jungle. They're split up a little. They're both trying to contest mid wave and take their red buff. Ezreal TP's back out. So now you try to poke, but you got to be very careful how you approach this against the engage. So like Ignar's flanking, you got to worry about Malzahar ult. Your poke just has not been... Okay, Santorin flashes in on Sven, and here goes Ignar with the follow-up. Solo goes in on top of Ignar. Okay. So Santorin led the engage here. And watch what happens between Santorin and Blaber, because Blaber dies. Santorin flashes in on Sven. Blaber gets taunted by Ignar originally. He's trying to peel. Oh, Ignar carries Blaber into the middle of the enemy team when I think Blaber was just trying to execute him. So like if you watch this really closely, here's Ignar. Blaber's on him. Blaber lands a Q, and he just wants to execute Ignar because he's really low health. He wants to execute him like in this little range here. And then just continue the fight from there. I don't think he uses Lee Sin ult. Yeah, look at this. But Ignar shields out onto Santorin, and then onto another person. And Blaber gets carried the whole way in and dies. Another Ignar outplay. I mean, it might not have been intentional. I think he was just trying to get out, but... And now you're in kind of bad shape. Did Solo miss that? I think he missed that. Solo taunt flash. Right here. You missed it. So there's still a chance. Sven's trying to land poke. Elder has reset. Licorice wants to throw a barrel over the wall. Sven walks up. Niski wants to poke also. You got no smite though, so you're kind of doomed. Ignar, who caught Sven originally there? Oh, Senna E. Ignar follows it up. Dead. Elder. Game over, right? Oh, Elder and Baron. We'll do that. Sure, why not? This has been a long one. Yeah. This entire scenario was just rough for C9's comp because they don't want to be approaching into an objective. But they had everything they needed to be the first ones set up on this objective. And maybe they're worried about getting engaged on then, but you're worried about getting engaged on if you're approaching second too. And even worse. So... And even then, like, maybe if Blaber executes Ignar there and doesn't get carried in and die... C9 might be able to win that fight. Like, that extended second portion there, if Ignar's dead and Blaber's alive, C9 might have a chance. This series was not a FlyQuest stomp, despite the level ones. Like, it feels, I'd say, like, emotionally, like, in your gut, it feels like it was really bad for C9, but I honestly think it was quite close. Overall. Some individual fights were very close. And the level ones, you know, put FlyQuest in enough of a front foot that made a difference. It made a difference. I think Cloud9 beat themselves. Like, FlyQuest did a lot of things to beat Cloud9, but there were also things Cloud9 did to beat themselves. So it had to be the combination of FlyQuest playing really well and C9 playing far below their level. And then it wasn't the closest series, but it was somewhat close, I'd say, like reasonably close. Yeah, this is going to obviously just end up. There it is. So as an overall series, again, to wrap it up, I think it was reasonably close. I think FlyQuest played really well overall, even though it wasn't incredible. I think Ignar had an amazing series as a team fighter and as his level 1s. I think Wild Turtle did his job. I think PoE was pretty good. Santorin was pretty good too. He only did a few things that really jumped out as like, oh, that was really good by Santorin. But there were some of those. And he didn't do anything that was like, oh, what are you doing, Santorin? You're totally inting. Which is what I kind of expect out of Santorin, right? Like, he does the right things at the right times, almost always. Cloud9 drafted themselves in some really tough positions with a high degree of difficulty. They had some pretty bad inting moments. And they just weren't on the same page as a team in a lot of scenarios, and they made some bad macro calls, just some straight up like, you are doing the wrong thing right now. That Elder setup being the case in point. But individually, Blaber, I think, aside from not reacting well to that first level 1 in game 1, and then or rather the second phase of that level 1 at the Raptors there, I don't think he was terrible. I think Santorin was better than him because Santorin, was better connected with his mid laner, which is a very important thing. And it's kind of weird to say that Santorin and PoE were better connected as a 2v2 than Blaber and Niski, because that was the whole thing with Blaber and Niski. But that's how it played out. So I think Santorin was the better jungler this series. Better jungler fundamentally, I don't think it's convinced me of that yet. I might watch a little more of these two players because I think it's a big discussion topic in the LCS of who's the better jungler between those two guys. And that's also part of what does sway the conversation on TL versus C9, like in power rankings and stuff. But, I think if C9 were more on the same page as a team in some of these plays, it could have ended up making things look very different for the entire series and maybe even emotionally snowballing it a little bit more, because it seemed like Cloud9 were definitely on an emotional downhill from start to finish. But, a little bit this series did move my opinion of Santorin up and Blaber down a little bit, and at least bring the gap between them closer, because I have generally believed Blaber is the stronger jungler than Santorin. Santorin is more stable and reliable. Blaber can do more creative things and has, I think, stronger mechanics. But I think this did bring them a little closer to par for me. But until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again.